Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. However you happen to be watching and or listening to this, I want to welcome you to the latest episode of the Gaming Circle podcast. The podcast where this week we're just drowning in 100-hour games plus. And man, oh man, my backlog can't take it. I'm your host, Mr. K. Asante, TKO Asante, in all the places we communicate. And I am joined this week and all weeks by my brother from another mother. The man who has decided that he is too svelte for us to see him on camera. Mr. Everborn Saga.
Nah.
Oh, there he is. What's good?
I am actually feeling a little bit under the weather today, sir. So
yes, sir.
Rather than sneezing and wiping my nose all stream, I'm gonna have to be off camera. I did want to show something.
Understood. Well, we're gonna do tech talk. We're gonna do tech talk. I expected you're gonna do that.
Oh, cool.
Now, is that just the white variant? Because I have the blue variant as well.
Yeah,
I have that blue variant. This is just the clear one, right?
Yeah.
I picked the wrong one. I should have gotten the clear one.
Listen, it's so weird because it's like the same thing.
It is, but different.
It works so much better. Like you can see the motors more when when they vibrate and things like that. You can see the motor there. Like it's really cool. Plus, my PC build is white with the white light, so it works very well with this.
He's doing that PC talk. Oh, there he go. All right.
The CPU talk all day.
Yeah, whatever. Mr. Emotional Gamer. Let's go. All right. So welcome one and all. We appreciate y'all being here. Thank you to all the folks that are already in the chat already. We appreciate you. It being November, I must say, we are on the hunt for 3K subscribers before the end of this year. So please help us out. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button. I think we're like, last I checked, I think we were like at 2,600, something like that. Like we're there, but we're not quite there.
Acquisition that'll get subscribers.
we need to start acquiring some things. I understand. That's right.
But right after this time.
We're like 2.62K right now. So hopefully, with your help in the audience, hitting that like button, letting other folks know that we are here. Hopefully soon we will hit our 3K goal for this year. We're so close we could taste it at this point,
I can't.
Well, yeah.
Just you laughing.
Yeah, there you go. So please, if you haven't done so already, please hit that like button. Please subscribe if you are new here. We appreciate you. If you're a channel member, we have always love our channel members here.
Hold on a minute. You mean to tell me that there are people that tune into this show every week and they're not subscribed? That can't be possible.
Oh yeah. I do have the percentage numbers. I do. There's a percentage of folks that do like to frequent the show, come and hang out, but are not subscribed to the channel. I would appreciate if you would correct that. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. On this show, we don't like to embarrass y'all, so I'm going to leave it off on Front Street, but we know who you are, sir.
We.
But yes, thank y'all so much for being here.
Shame back to society. I'm sorry.
We need to bring shame back to society because shame seems to work, right? It seems to help. Yes, that's right. Oh, okay. All right. But before we start, first super chat of the day, of course, the great MJ Dark. He says, Christopher Everborn Columbus. Remember, CEG is just PC big picture mode. Have a great show, K. Asante. Here's why Gojima is the best. Yeah, whatever, sir. Whatever, sir. Yeah. Even though you were right on the first part, Christopher Everborn Salah.
We have to do this every so often, so I will explain it again. For those who are new, because some people aren't subscribed, so maybe they don't know.
Maybe we don't know. Go ahead. Explain.
CEG is just a classification that some folks, not all, like to consider. There are people that game on PC, but they're not really into the mouse and keyboard and multiple launchers thing. They want the console experience on PC, whether they do it through a mini PC, whether they do it through a handheld, whether they hook a 4090 up to their TV, right? But they want to have a controller first experience, but they don't want to be bound to what the console providers offer, and they don't want to be using the Epic Game Store and the mouse and keyboard and things like that. And so that's just what we call the people who want to do that. We don't own anything. We're not trying to rename anything. It is just a banner for the people who are coming to realize that PC is a home for them as well. That's it.
Would you go ahead and answer Mr. Wolf's question as well? Because that seems to be pertinent.
Yes, you know what? You're right.
Stop it.
No. CEG is my pronouns. That's it.
Oh, Lord help us. All right. Well, it's going to be one of those shows. We appreciate y'all for being here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on here and having a great Saturday with us. We will start this thing like we always start this thing, and I will ask you, Mr. Everborn Saga, since you are, you were a busy man. You accomplished the Kickstarter goals. You were burning the midnight oil. You were on all these different shows. So the question is, have you had a chance to catch up with some gaming, sir?
Don't forget Comic-Con. That was a big deal.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, and absolutely Comic-Con. Absolutely. So
and
the question is, yeah,
I know what the question is, but I also have to say we also relaunched the Everborn
Saga website. That's right. That's right. Yes, a lot has happened.
Yes, but
so I guess my question is, have you finished Call of Duty Black Ops 6? Have you finished Metaphor ReFantazio?
Nope.
Have you started and/or finished Dragon Age The Veilguard?
Okay, so I've started all those things. I have not finished and do not hope to finish any of them anytime soon. And you left out the major one, which is Sonic X Shadow Generations, which, by the way,
major one.
I mean,
continue.
Critic, million first day. That's a pretty big
yeah. That has become our barometer these days, right? Our barometer is.
There's a lot of other games that were called the best Mario named platformer, but they didn't advertise.
Man. They did are you going that hard right now? We're doing that.
All I'm saying is this is highly regarded as one of the best Sonic games ever made, which is funny enough because a lot of people think that it is a remaster. It is literally a sequel. Did you know
it's a remaster with a sequel attached, right?
Yes, but I think it's better to consider it a sequel with a remaster attached. Because
okay, so what's the bulk of the content there? Is there more remaster or more sequel?
Shadow Generations is longer than Sonic Generations.
Really?
Yes.
That's weird because Sonic Generations was not that long.
Yeah, this is a full game. This is what I'm saying. Shadow Generations is a bigger game.
I see why, based on your description, I see why they attach both together. Because neither of them are that long. So if you were to just hand somebody just that, it might not be enough. But combining them together I see what you mean.
Right.
Okay.
But also, people may not remember the original Generations. For new people, anyway. Obviously, we all hold it in high regards. But that being said, the Digital Foundry did a great breakdown on it. If you were to, they've basically taken what they've learned from Sonic Frontiers, the good parts, and then they've taken the boost levels that everyone loves, and they've kind of taken the best of that and made an amalgamation of it. So the way that they handle set pieces, the way that they're able to give a solid 60 FPS on screen, obviously not on the Switch and not on past gen, but current gen gives you a near locked 60 FPS while throwing a lot of things on screen, jumping into set pieces. These are some of the most elaborate set pieces that have ever been in any Sonic game. And unlike other Sonic games in their current generation when they're released, it is remarkably stable. So Sonic Team has done a lot with the Hedgehog engine here. And it might go under the radar for some, but like when you're playing it, when you're looking at those sort of Inception style effects and other things in the Shadow Generations game, there really is a lot happening. And so it's a very well performing game. The art style, the art style of Generations is a testament to how timeless what they've done is, because if you play Generations today, it literally is a 13-year-old game. It came out in 2011. And yes, they've updated the UI, but the game itself still feels like fresh, right? And the Sonic piece of it works, but I don't want to spend too much time on that because it is a game that we've played. And so the only thing is it still holds up, and these are takes on existing levels. So these are timeless levels. So the levels themselves are very fun. The other thing is on the shadow side of it, what they've done that's very interesting. You were just looking at the level select stage where you sort of beat a level and then it turns into color. What they've done on the shadow side of things is super interesting because they've basically made that side of it, they've made much more use of it. So they've made it into a sandbox like Sonic Frontiers, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. So as you beat levels and get new powers, more of the levels come into focus, into color, and then you get more obstacles and things that you can do in that sandbox. I just think it's very smartly takes advantage of the positives that people liked about Frontiers, while also giving people what they really love with the adventure style boost level. It's really well done. And
so Jax82 asks the question: is it the same missions in Sonic Generations with Shadow missions added as DLC? Question mark.
No, Shadow is it's a completely different game. The game itself is actually a launcher, and you can go into Sonic Generations and you get that complete game. And then Shadow is a whole other launcher, so you're entering into a whole new game. When you start it, you have the option: which game do you want to play? Do you want to play Shadow, Generation, Sonic? I don't think that was communicated well in the marketing, because I was very surprised by this. But it literally is a
separate game. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate that they didn't try to like nickel and dime you like some other people would do, but we're not going to name them. But this is a legitimate sequel to Sonic Generations. So I like, if you've been tired of Sonic, or you feel like Sonic hasn't lived up to what it used to be lately, this is a great place to re-enter the franchise, because Generations.
So I have to ask. to ask, because you have made this statement previously before, and I must just ask about it, see what get your thoughts on it. Right? We've had conversations about Gears of War and how you've told me that the formula needs to mature and needs to evolve. Right? Then we saw Space Marine 2, and we went, yeah, that's the maturity what we're talking about. Do you see any world where the Sonic franchise could benefit from some kind of a rewrite? Or have they done enough in this specific instance to still be as relevant as you want them to be? Or do you think that they could use some modernization in some way?
Now, I want to answer that question, but what people are looking at on screen is literally real-time gameplay. So all of that is just happening, and it doesn't slow down. It is really well done. And so I play this, and what they're doing with the level select stages, which is an ode to Frontiers. I think that Frontiers was the sort of revamp that Sonic needed, although it did need a little bit more polish and focus on that style of gameplay. But I kind of think this.
So you think the open world is a good enough update, modernization, if you will?
Well, so the thing is, I think what they've done is so smart, because
okay, real quick, this right here is very smart right now, because this reminds me of 2D Sonic back in the day when you would go to the specialty levels where everything was in a big circle. Like, I see what they did there. That was pretty cool.
This is a main level, right?
Yes,
just the overworld is
they've just wrapped the world around you, so it reminds you of those old levels you used to go and collect coins and avoid the spikes. Same kind of thing, like this right here.
So I do think that both of these are required to give people the feeling of a Sonic game. And you had this in Frontiers as well, when you went into the cyberspace levels. So I just think that the way it's done here, where these are more of the focus and the overworld is sort of what you would consider the cyberspace levels, and what do you call it? But if like, look at this, right? This is what it should be. And then I would like a little bit more in the overworld, because I do appreciate what we got there, but I think this is a very good way to mix both of them. And I think this is a path forward. I still want more expounding on the open world, so I would like a Frontiers 2 where that's a big focus. but this is what I think. These can live side by side, and I think this goes away a good way of merging the two.
Okay. Hit me with another game you're playing.
All right, another game I'm playing. There's so many. All right, I want to give one. Did we? I don't know if we spoke about this last week, but did we discuss Windblown?
Windblown. Yes, we did. We spoke about Windblown a little bit.
Discuss it in the Discord. I don't remember.
I think it was here, but go ahead. Speak on it some more. I would like to know a little bit more about it. Go ahead.
Windblown is another one. It's currently on sale. You can get it for $20 right now. It's early access. To me, who are the people that made this? They made what else?
Windblown. I have to look into it.
Look that up. So, it's really well done. I'm enjoying the combat. It is a roguelike, but not so far anyway. Not an annoying one.
Why are roguelikes? They tend to be annoying.
Yeah, I need things that respect my time. Right, I don't have enough time to game as is, and if you're telling me to do the same thing over, you're gonna piss me off, and I'm gonna move on to the next game because there's so many games out. That's what the show's called. So to me, and again, not that Towerborn is trying to be that, but the art style.
I remember you said that it kind of gave you like proper Towerborn, right? It's like Towerborn, but done a little differently.
That's not. It's not fair to this to call it Towerborn because Towerborn is very different. Towerborn is a beat 'em up game. This is not. But art style wise, it is similar, and the combat here connects with me a little bit more. I like the way it's done. I like the way that they give you new weapons. This is it on screen. So the only thing that I'm still not 100% jiving with is there's no real jump. There's a dash, and that is used as a jump. You can see it there.
You were saying that before. Yep.
That is not really sitting as well with me. I would prefer to just be able to jump, and they give you the appearance that this is a platform, but it's really not. You get to a wall, you dash, and you basically can dash through and up anything almost. So like I like those things separated. I would prefer to have my jump separated from my dodge.
From your dash,
because it's dash, dodge, it's all the same thing. And so I feel like they're making a little bit too much use of that mechanic, and I'd like to see if it could be separated. But
you asked what other games they made. They are the ones that made the DLC to Dead Cells, Return to Castlevania, I should say Wolfenstein. Return to Castlevania. They also did a few other DLC for Dead Cells. That's their their claim to fame.
Right? Did they create DLC or just the DLC?
No,
DLC for Dead Cells.
No, just the DLC for Dead Cells. They did not actually create Dead Cells themselves. They were part of the team.
Yeah. So, but you see what I'm saying, right? With the dash.
Oh, right? No, I'm wrong. I am wrong. Please let the record show I am wrong. Motion Twin are indeed both the publisher and developer of OG Dead Cells. Never mind. There you go.
Okay.
They created Dead Cells. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not really like it gives the vibe of a platformer, but it's not because you're just dashing through the obstacles. I just preferred to jump. I don't know. But I think that's a core mechanic to them, so I doubt they're going to change it. It just
is it enough? Like, are you able to get it out? Like, are you able to get used to it and have that be the mechanic, or are you the whole time wondering, wishing you had a jump?
Both. Like I can deal with it, but it just feels like
a missing thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, I don't. It's early access. I always like to get things in early access just to see where they're going and play them in the beginning, and then come back to it at 1.0
when it's completed. That's right.
Yeah. I doubt that I'm gonna pick it up until it's officially out, but I will definitely check it out again. Plus, you get it on sale and stuff when you do early access.
When you buy it early access, of course.
Of early access because it does help the devs, and I get a look at it. But I personally, I don't want to play a game till it's done. But I do like seeing where you are now versus.
While I feel you and all that, I will also say this is Motion Twin, who has now sold their game everywhere and anywhere. You can even get it on Netflix at this point. So they probably don't need the money, but yeah, I feel you on that. You know, at least you can hand them some ducats to help them with the development process.
Project on its own is its own business.
True. No doubt.
They don't need the money, but the project needs the money, right?
The project probably needs.
So just like absolutely. Like Xbox and Microsoft don't need money, but different studios,
right? Different studios might. That's right.
So
what else you got?
All right. So then, obviously, metaphor, but we've talked that to death, so I'll leave it alone. Plus, I haven't had time to get back to it since all these other games.
Other things.
Same thing with Space Marine. Haven't got a chance to get back.
You gotta finish Space Marine, bro. That is one of those titles where, like, you and I are the same. We don't usually play with humans, but Space Marines benefits from playing with humans. Like you and someone else versus the world. It elevates that game's fun factor beyond it's already great mixture. You got to play with somebody.
But every time I've played that game, every mission I've done, I've had a blast and wanted to go.
It's
back.
Awesome. It's so good. Yeah.
Then I haven't gone back to it is because all these other games have come out. So next is COD.
Yes. Speak on COD a little bit, because I've been playing COD for a bit by myself. Yeah, how's your experience been with COD?
This is my first COD that I've seriously played in about a decade. Like I've played other ones, like tried to do the opening mission of a campaign and just realized it wasn't for me. And then my son, because I used to beat him in Halo all the time, he's always like, "Come play me in COD," and I'm like, "You ain't slick. I know what you're trying to do. Handle the Twitch shooting. I can't." And so
now I have to ask, have you put your paces through the campaign yet, sir?
No, this is what I'm coming to. So I'm playing this campaign,
and for the record, ladies and gentlemen, he will deny it, but let us make no mistake, he does a great job in the campaign.
Okay,
great job.
Okay,
absolutely great. Look at that man. He represents better than anybody else. Look at that guy. Look at that Everborn Saga.
No, it does not. It looks.
Yes, it does. It looks exactly like my wife saw that picture and went, "Oh my God, is that Steven?"
Do not let him lie to you. Just because he played Halo show that got
my wife looked at this photo and the first thing she said was, "Yo, is that Steven?" I'm like, "Yup, see, even you see it. Look at the side. Look at the side. Look at that side panel." I will say that the hair is a little much. They're trying to go for 90s flair. I get that. But yo, come on. Look at that Everborn Saga. What are we talking about right now?
But I digress.
But okay. Yeah, continue.
I'm playing it. I did the opening mission. I'm playing on PC. You know, it is.
You're playing on Steam.
Yes. No, I'm not.
Xbox?
Come on. I'm
what are you playing then?
The Xbox PC app, the Windows Store.
You are playing on the PC app. Okay. How has your experience been? Because I have thoughts. Please continue.
It has not it has not crashed on me, as I've heard some people say. But I think I am only 3 missions in. So I did the opening mission. I got cursed out by Lou Diamond Phillips. I went into the house, and then
the legendary.
And then I met the person where I had to kill the guy on the boat. And then I'm in the next mission now, like at the party or whatever. So I have a different. That's where I am now. I have not had any issues. It works very smoothly. It's a very good looking game. It feels good. It feels right. You know, people are saying it's a return to form. I can't speak to that because I haven't played Call of Duty.
I haven't played the other one. Yeah, I feel you.
So this is like my first serious attempt at a Call of Duty game in about a decade, but it's good and it's doing a good job of keeping me interested, even though the stories really aren't ever really about anything. But you know, they got a target, they got to go after it. There's a mole. I'm here for it.
Look at Everborn Saga right there. Come on now. Anyway, no, look.
So the campaign does feel good, and to me, I was under the impression a long time that for first-person shooters, only Halo still cares, campaign-wise. But this says, Call of Duty still cares. So this is good. This is good. I'm enjoying.
Everborn Marshall, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, indeed. Anyway, look. I will say, and I'll quickly interject because I too have been playing on the PC, right? I've been playing the PC version of it. I've been playing on the Windows Store version, and day one there were some weird issues, and you might actually see some of that in this footage because maybe I'll scrub through and see if I can find it. What I've noticed, what I saw, and let me see if I can find it. Yeah, the water. Look at the water. You see? Look. You see it's flickering a little.
Ew.
Yes, that was day one, right? And as you keep going along, you'll see some of the world just disappears and pops back in as you play.
I've done this.
Happened to you?
Happened to me once, and I played on day one.
This is what happened on day one for me. Okay, and in addition to just the water, there are certain levels that you walk in, like you were saying, you're at that world where you're recruiting the female operative to join you, right? You have to do like a mission where you're helping her execute some guy, right? She's hunting down some guy. When you walk into the crowded place where there's a lot of people and they're running and they're hiding behind crates, all those crates have disappeared. The floor has disappeared. You're just in space. And like a minute and a half into the mission, the world just pops in. So you're just running around, not seeing anything. You're just seeing dead air while you're. There was some bugginess in there. Yes.
Did you wait for all the shaders to compile at the beginning?
Of course, you can't play the game without letting the shaders compile, and it took like a minute and a half for it to compile. Like it took some time. Yeah, this game at launch had some weird issues. I've actually even spoken to some folks who not just have had that issue, but also had the other issue that's unique to you and me, where you play it on one device, you pick it up on the mobile device and you go, and the mobile device doesn't carry over your save. So I have to deal with Lou Diamond Phillips and Everborn Saga again at the beginning. I played that level at least 4 or 5 times on my mobile because it will continue the where you left off, but then every once in a while you go back to it and bam, it's back to level 1 as if you lost all your saves. But on the big PC, it's still continuing where it was. Lots of oddities, and that save bug I'm talking about actually still exists. You see the water. That save bug still exists where I can't play it on my mobile right now because if I try to, it goes to basically start from scratch rather than continuing where it left off. There's some oddities on PC.
Very weird. Let me ask you a question. Cause mine did 3 updates before it would let me start. It was like you got to restart the game, you got to do an update. Mm-hmm. Did you just pre-download it and then play right away, or how did that happen?
I did it when I started this. I played this right from day one. Right, I had it preloaded because if you played any of the old Modern Warfares, any of the old CODs, I should say, you're basically it's a launcher, right? That's what it is. The COD UI is a launcher, which is another thing that I kind of don't like that we can talk about in a minute. But so when the time unlocked and you could play it, there may have been updates there because I leave my PC on, updated, I right click, I check for updates. There were no updates when I first recorded this footage. Subsequently, there have been many updates since then. So it could be that this is no longer a factor, but I have not gone back to this level to check again.
So I think part of maybe this has something to do with it. I have no idea. Mm-hmm. As I said, I didn't have any of these issues, but I did not download this game until it was available to Gen Pop.
Okay.
So there was no COD launcher previously, and I specifically decided to only download the campaign and none of the other stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
And then once I downloaded it, after the shaders compile, it was like, okay, there's an update available. You need to do this, and it did that 2 or 3 times before I started it. So I didn't play it the morning or the night it was available. It was
you played it a couple days later. Understood.
I wonder if that has anything to do why I didn't experience that.
So my penguin brethren, Mr. Floodzilla, with a $2 super chat, he says AMD doesn't have these issues. Thank you, sir.
Whatever helps you sleep at night.
Whatever helps you sleep at night. I will ask you, Everborn, about the fact that you said you only played the campaign, you didn't download anything extra.
Nothing.
I've noticed this.
No map packs. No.
Yeah. I noticed this oddity, and I want to know if you noticed this oddity as well. Maybe on your side of the house, they did not have this problem. I hate the fact that it opens like so I didn't download Call of Duty HQ, which is the main launcher that then obviously launches all the subsequent Call of Duties, including Warzone. I didn't download that one, right? I tried to just download the base game of COD Black Ops 6 with the campaign. That's it, nothing else, right? You go in, you turn it on, it gives you options to what your graphic settings will be, accessibility settings, But when you go to play campaign, which shout out to them, I was the one, the gray beard, causing a lot of static because I couldn't find the campaign of the last game. This one, the campaign's quite easy to find, right? So you go in there and you find the campaign. When you say play campaign, it then once again, does this happen to you? It once again goes away, gets you back to your desktop. You wait a little bit, and then it loads the campaign as if it's another launcher. Like, you can't just launch directly into the game. You must always launch into a launcher that then launches the game.
So I think some of that is happening with me because
it's annoying as hell.
Every time I launch the game, and you know I don't like using the mouse and keyboard, right? So when I go, like, kudos to them, as you said, the campaign's right there in your face.
It's right there. You don't have to search for a week to find it.
And every time I click on the campaign just to play it, it kicks me out. Not kicks me out, but now the controller does not have focus on it. And so I have to then go and get the mouse and keyboard and click back into the app so that the controller is focused on that app and not. This is a Windows thing, and I'm sure if I was playing the Steam version, this wouldn't happen.
Actually, Lucius says it does this on Xbox, but it's a black screen because obviously you don't have a desktop on Xbox. It just goes black screen for a couple of seconds and doesn't go away. It doesn't go to the desktop. It then loads, right? But I guess the point, and thank you, Lucius, for pointing that out. Salute to you, good sir. The point is, you can't just launch the game to directly go to campaign. There's always a launching of another thing after you've chosen the campaign, which is so weird. I'm trying to find the executable that cuts through the red tape.
I don't want to spend the $70 to test this, but I really wonder because
if it's the same thing on Steam.
Yeah, the way that I'm launching it is I like when I have a Game Pass game, I use a tool called geez, I can't remember the name of it now. I'll find the tool, but you can basically add your Xbox games to your Steam library, which is not is not a straightforward way to do it. But so I launch it from there, and I'm only using the controller. I add it with that app, which I will get the name of, and then I can use big picture mode to launch the game.
To launch it, yes, and it'll launch.
Right.
Yeah,
but
I get
the problem is because it does this weird thing when you start the campaign, I now have to pull out the
highlight
keyboard to say, let's click back on this, and now I'm focused back in the thing just because of the way they launch it. That doesn't happen with Starfield. It doesn't happen with other games that I've
this is the only game that has happened to me where it does exactly this. Yes. Only game. And by the way, I see you understanding. He says y'all are doing something wrong. This is not a broken thing. It's just an odd annoyance. It's launching multiple things to get you to your campaign, when in fact you should just be able to find the executable that launches straight into the campaign. Nothing else. To be fair, no other sub launchers.
To be fair. And I have the Steam version of Cyberpunk 2077. You launch that, it takes you into their own launcher and
into the UI. Yes, but so you can choose to turn that off, though.
Okay,
you can choose to turn, at least in the Cyberpunk instance, you can turn off their UI, and literally when you double click, it boom goes right to splash screen of game. Right, you can do that. You just have to go into the settings and choose not to have that UI. They did that because if you happen to be a person that plays in multiple places, you can, in that launcher menu, you can then pull in saves and stuff from other places. Right, that's why they chose to do that. Yeah, but that one gives you at least the option to turn it off if you so choose. This one, so far, I don't see how.
The mission you're on now is the one that I'm up to. That's where
okay. Okay.
So
keep going.
Now,
it's a fun game. It's really awesome.
Yeah, no. I definitely wanted to keep going, and I would have kept going, but then the elephant in the room.
What happened?
Veilguard comes out.
Yes. Let's talk
And
about
just like
Veilguard. Yes.
you, I don't want to call it FOMO because I always knew that I was getting this game.
I knew I was gonna get
I
it
was
as well. I was trying to hold off and play when I was ready, but y'all just was like on my timeline, beating me over the head with images and all the guys you had created, and I'm just like, man.
I was like the last Dragon Age that I think this is the last Dragon Age, but it was Inquisition, which again,
yeah, me too. Me too.
so the
Inquisition.
last time I played a Call of Duty game was probably the last time I played a Dragon Age game, because it was around 2014. So
I actually did re-download and start playing some of the older Dragon Ages, like maybe 6 months ago to just prime myself on what the game was and the style, all that, just to remind myself when the new one would come out. Yeah.
So I got the game, and I also, like, kudos to them. The thing that secured me to say, okay, I want to get this thing and play it day one is they've done the work in terms of having a proper PC port, being deck verified on day one, not requiring whatever the EA launcher is. You can just get the game.
You can just boot right in. Absolutely.
From there.
By the way, I am on the EA launcher because I chose to go the Play Pro route in order to get it. And even that, clean experience. Haven't had any issues. Launches right in, no issue. Even on the handheld, plays on low, 77 frames per second on a handheld. It's really good.
And this is the thing. Too many games come out and they're not ready for prime time, even single player games, or they're not optimized yet, and you got to wait several weeks for updates. But this one was like, no, they had it right, and it's polished on day one, and that in and of itself was enough for me to say I'm going to give the game a shot. I didn't know if I was going to stick with it, but because they were deck verified, because that means I can play it on the
how well are they deck verified? I did see some folks complaining that the deck verification, like, while it was there, when you go to play it, it looked like there was some issues a little bit.
Well, I don't really care how well it plays on the deck. I care how well it plays on the ally and the Bazite box, which was basically an ally. Yeah. I have not tried that yet.
Okay.
But it was enough to get my money. Now, I was going to try it, but I got so engrossed in the playing it on the 4090, and it runs really well, and it's a very handsome looking game.
Absolutely. You're looking at 4090 footage right now, by the way. Yeah.
So I did my character creation,
averaging 130 something frames per second.
Right.
At everything blazing with 4K and ray trace, the whole thing. It's well done. Well done.
I'm a melee guy, so I went for the warrior. Obviously, I don't
sword and board.
Yeah, I don't do the.
I went for a rogue.
Yeah. See, no, I need a shield. I need like the balance of strength and like.
I know you are a Zelda acolyte. I understand. It's fine.
Yeah. It's the same thing. I go barbarian in Diablo, which, by the way, I didn't even talk to you about that. I started Vessel of Hatred.
Did you? Wow. Okay. Yes. Okay. Finish this up, and we'll talk about Vessel of Hatred.
Okay. Yeah. So, I'm playing it. I make my character.
You know it, good sir. You know it. Liquid cool, baby. Liquid cool.
And like as a game, as an RPG, I would say I'm very happy with the game. Now, as you might know, and we'll come to this later, but I am and we've had this discussion in the Discord. I think it'll be good to have it here. I am a big fantasy guy, right? Whether it's Tolkien, whether it's Song of Ice and Fire, whether it's Brandon Sanderson and the Stormlight Archive. And if Rand is listening, yes, I know I need to finish book 4, Rhythm of War, because the new one is coming out next month.
Real quick, risk it. If you look on the corner of the screen there, that's why I leave it on the screen so you can see what it was. I'm averaging about 144 frames right now. So yes, it is all the frames, sir. It is all the frames. He was making fun of me. I was on Riskit's show last night. I happened to jump on, and we were having jokes about PC guys getting all the frames. Yes, sir. I'm getting all the frames, all of them. They're all mine. It's fine.
By the way, Riskit, shout out to you for the satire you did with.
Oh yeah, excellent, excellent. All I needed was a yellow background. Come on, yellow background next time. It was fantastic.
But back to Dragon Age. So
yes.
At like the world, and again, they've had 2 decades to build this world out. So the world is really well realized. The combat is also pretty fantastic in my opinion. I feel all of the impact of the hits. I like the way they you can use your superpowers. It all just feels right. The
How do you feel with this compared to, say, Elden Ring? I know you were big on the Sword and Board of Elden Ring as well. They're moment to moment. How does that feel?
Universes.
No, obviously, I'm just talking about I'm talking about you with your sword and shield heading into combat, like folks coming after you. Obviously, it won't be the same difficulty level. How does that moment to moment feel? I know you really loved Elden Ring. How does this feel compared to that?
I'm struggling to find, and I know you're not comparing them, but the experience is just two different things, right? Like this is like asking me, like, you know, how do you feel about listening to dubstep versus like Bob Marley? Like I like
the only common denominator is you're using your ears.
Yes, like I can't, you know.
I get you.
so just very different. Now that being said, like it is a beautiful looking game. I really like the art direction. I really like all the different things you can do with the characters. I even like as a story, the way they are delivering it. I like it. I like the moment to moment. I don't feel, even though they're literally just telling me go here and then go there, right, point to point. It doesn't feel like
no, John Wolf, no. Stop with the Kaloid ridiculousness. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No. We shouldn't stop with that. But my point is, like, it does feel a lot more like an RPG than Final Fantasy 16 does.
Okay.
Right? Now,
yeah, it's proper RPG. Yeah.
That being said, because we have to talk about this.
Yes,
the
sir.
Tone of the storytelling in this game. Final Fantasy 16 anyway clears this tone-wise for a fantasy story.
Okay, sure.
Now, plot-wise, that's a completely different discussion, but tonally, this is very clearly taking its cues from the MCU in the way the dialogue
about this yesterday.
Yep. Now, is this the time to have the accents conversation, or do you want to save that? Well, let me just say, I really enjoy the game. I love the combat. I love the moment to moment. I cannot wait to get back into this game. And of all the games we mentioned, the only thing that will pull me away from this is that I want to finish Shadow Generations, but it's going to be this and Shadow Generations, I think, until both of them are done before I get back to any other games. And that is coming from someone who really is in love with metaphor and wants to finish that. But these are probably going to be the next 2 games that I play. So that's high praise on my part.
Let's talk about the accents conversation. But before we do, real quick, first off, shout out to all the great folks that are in here. Appreciate y'all continue to rock with us. Appreciate y'all being here. Hit the like button if you haven't. We're on our way to 3,000 subscribers. Help us get there. We're so close. We can taste it. Thank you all so much for your continued support. I want to continue down this line because you and I I think are pretty much aligned in this conversation. I will take a quick off ramp and say, because I too have been playing Call of Duty, and we already talked about that. I too have been playing The Veilguard, and we're going to talk about that. Another thing that maybe I'll talk about later at some point is I've been playing the closed beta of Destiny Rising, which just came out. NetEase closed beta. You have access to it.
How is that, by the way? The trailer looked really good.
It is interesting. I haven't had enough time in it yet, but like I like what I'm playing, especially and this is me being a
can you full screen that? I want to see this controller because I was thinking about getting that.
Yeah, and honestly, that's another thing I really wanted to chat about.
Ergonomic than the
yes.
backbone.
So real quick, And I may put like the links to this if you wanna partake. But let me show you my screen here.
Well, give me a review before I go spend some money on that. You know what you need, Kay? Before you do that, I need you to invest in one of these unboxing cams like I got.
I know, man. I know.
Just put a Logitech on a cheap mic arm.
And then point it down. Yeah.
I crazy glued it, and then what do you call it? I'm telling you, get a boom arm.
Y'all saw this. This was from me, and I have a Galaxy S21 Ultra, big hands, big man. So my controller for a phone needs to be a little bit bigger and wider so that it kind of supports the big phone, right? So this is the one that you probably saw on my channel that I've been using. It's quite good. I really like it. If you want, check it out. Go on the channel. You'll see that there's a video for it. This is not GameSir. This is it's a third-party company, but it's very quality. It's got Hall effect sensors and triggers and things like that. The only thing I had a problem with was the clicky of the, because it uses dome switches instead of membrane sticks. So it takes some getting used to, but I still liked it. This came out and they let me review it, and this it's by a company called Easy SMX, right? And they have a lot of range of interesting controllers. The reason why I like this more than all the others is because it's called Easy SMX. I'll put the link to it in the show notes when this thing posts. I like it because it's basically an Xbox controller cut in half. It really is, and it's got the extra buttons on the side. Also Hall effects, and it doesn't have membrane, it doesn't have switches. It actually does have full throw, and you can use it for racing games and things like that. And it just feels really quality and good in the hand, and it gives you a bit extra more ergonomic that you feel.
How would you compare it to the Backbone?
It's very Backbone-like, but it's far more ergonomic if you have bigger hands. Like it fits far more comfortably in the hand. It really does, in my humble opinion. And the reason why I like it so much is because a lot more of these phone games automatically detect your controller, and this is no different. As soon as I plugged it in, it detects Destiny, and it plays really good. Like I'm like out and about, and I'm just like playing with this thing, and it's pretty sweet. I will have more of a video on this thing on the channel soon enough. I'm gonna do a little bit of a thing on it. It's not like, outlandishly crazy, your next amazing device, but if you want to take your phone on the go and you have some games you want to play on it, emulation and otherwise, this is a really good device. I've come to love it. It's quite good. It's simple. It does the job, right? There's turbo you can use if you want to do that. You can add your own, you have the M1 and M2, so you can add your own custom control schemes if you want to do that. It's just clean and good and feels good in the hand, and you can play mobile games pretty easily using it. So yes, that is what I want to say real quick. I will have more of my thoughts on Destiny once I put some more of my paces through it. For now, that's what I have to say. What were you going to say, Everborn?
So like I try a lot of these sort of mobile controller contraptions.
I have a bunch of them too, yeah.
And they always, a lot, especially like even from GameSir, like they have ones that look good, but you get them and they kind of feel
and they don't feel great. Yes.
And so the Backbone is probably the most high quality.
The Backbone is good, but it's also small. It feels small in the hand.
Yes.
It doesn't feel substantial. That's why I like this better.
Yeah, I've been waiting for one that feels like like an Xbox controller. Like really, it has this is hard to explain because they can look fine, but they might not feel right. Like you'll tell me
another one from Easy SMX. I was trying to find I've been looking for a while now, right? This is also a little tiny in my hands. This is the first one that I have that I'm like, yes, an adult male can use this and it won't feel like too small and all that. So I'll have a review for y'all, but yes, I too am on the hunt for a good, a USB-C based, because I don't want that Bluetooth. This is Bluetooth. It feels okay, but the USB-C based ones are far less latency prone. They're great. They're really good. So yes.
Yeah. So yes. Anyway, I'm interested to hear how that holds up, because I've gotten so many of those that like I look at the trailer, I get hype, and then I get it, and I'm like,
and then you pick it up and you're just like,
eh.
yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
So let's talk about what we, I wouldn't say don't like, but some of the critique that I've heard floating around that I agree in certain instances are a problem here. I'll let you start and tell me when you started playing this, where was the first thing that kind of made you side eye and go on Dragon Age? Yeah.
Let's take this back to before I played it. When they first revealed it, right? And I want you to understand where I'm coming from, right? When they first revealed the game, I had
I'll put away my phone because I'm going to start playing this.
A very like esoteric complaint, which was, this is a fantasy setting, but when you start out, this is when they first revealed the game. They're saying this is from the beginning of the game. They're running through a city, and remember, this is a fantasy setting. And you hear a bullhorn, a very distinct, when you hear something from a bullhorn, when it's coming from a speaker, right? And they're saying, everyone get in your houses. And then from the sky, you're seeing spotlights, like they're coming from a big light on a helicopter. And I'm like, why am I hearing bullhorns? And I'm talking about like people's digitally distorted voices from a loudspeaker, right? And why am I seeing lights in the sky that are clearly like the spotlights from a helicopter, but they're in a fantasy setting, and they are coming from the texture of this
you don't
object.
like that magic? You don't like that magic being able to use bullhorn magic?
No. This is not magic, right? Then you see that the lights in the sky are coming from something that is floating in the air like a goddamn spaceship, and it is shaped like a flying spaceship, but the textures of it are stone, like a Victorian style castle. And I'm like, this is offending my sensibilities, right? And again, this is not about the game itself as a game. Again, there is high tech, there's steampunk. I see what you're saying, Lucius, but spots like this will take anyone out of their sense of place and setting. It's too jarring to use what they did. And then,
so for the record, I didn't get that sense when I played it, but I hear you. Continue.
So they're in the air having dog fights with flying objects and then demons. So it's like they have like jets flying around. And again, I understand that they have technology, but technology and magic are very different things, and there's different ways you can display these things to give them a sense of time, right? And again, if you have technology and you're using stone for things, it doesn't make sense that you're using these things. But and again, a spotlight is very specific from a rock that is producing light. I'm sorry, it doesn't feel right, and you've never seen this anywhere else. We've seen other fantasy settings that that people are using magic to do things that replicate technology that we have today. This was a little bit like some other things with the dialogue, too far in one direction, right?
Okay.
So again, I'm just telling you, immediately that throws me out of it, right? And I don't know if you can get footage of the reveal, because maybe people can see what I'm talking about. But it's from the opening of the game. And if you have your gameplay here, you're gonna see it, right?
Yeah, I'm skipping through it right now to see if we can get there. There you go.
When you are in a fantasy setting, there are certain things that people do with lighting, and filters that give you a sense of place. And again, I get it. This is a very esoteric complaint, but I'm going somewhere. I promise. Right now, the other thing about fantasy is the fantasy that we've looked at throughout the years that has felt authentic. A lot of it is it's very weird to me that we're in a fantasy setting, but people have like a Southern Californian accent, right? And and at first I thought like fantasy needs to have British accents, but that's not true, right?
No.
But you need to have an accent from a language that is older than 500 years, right? If you're going to do a fantasy setting, right?
That's a bit of a meta critique, but I hear you.
So Diablo does this well, and they don't have British accents. They have like Eastern European accents, even though they're speaking English, right? Obviously, you have a lot of Brits there in it, but I'm saying this to say, if someone has an Asian accent, if they have an African accent, if they have a French accent, whatever, you name it, it'll feel more authentic. It's just that when I hear a very modern American accent, it throws me out of a fantasy.
Sounds like a Valley Girl. The Valley Girl accents throw you out of the mix.
It doesn't feel. It just takes me out of the setting.
Authentic to the time period. It does not feel authentic to the time period. Yeah.
So for example, if you're in a fantasy setting and someone pulls out a goddamn cell phone, you're gonna say, "Hey, this doesn't make sense," right? That doesn't feel right for the time setting. And I'm saying I think they're doing.
Lucius is coming for you. He says apparently we can never have an American fantasy story.
What do you want me to say? Right
there, you go. You see, but this is the point.
Fantasy. Wait a minute.
No. Come on now.
Fantasy adaptation.
To be fair, Mr. Everborn Saga. To be fair, you can have chocobos, but you can't have American accents. Like, come on now. Like, what are we doing right now?
Cool.
It is fair.
Cool. I'm just saying it takes me out of it, right? And the fantasy works that we have gotten that have resonated with audiences around the world
are non-American sounding ones.
They have not had American accents because it feels too new. Right? And it takes you out of it. I'm sorry, there's something called verisimilitude. Right? You give me a setting, you want this thing to be believable. If it doesn't feel believable, if it doesn't feel authentic, I'm sorry. You could say it should feel authentic, but if it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't know what you want me to say.
Hidden Rogue is not having it. He says this is clearly a him problem and no one else's.
This is not, listen, as a game, this is fantastic. In a fantasy setting, I'm telling you it doesn't work for me. And that's for me.
Sure. Yeah, now, of course.
But this is something that permeates throughout the game. And we're going to get to it with the certain dialogue trees that have been floating around, because I think that's a worthy conversation as well. But I think the game is in a fantasy setting, but it is the milieu is fantasy, but the subject matter and the dialogue and much about it, the technology is very rooted in today's world.
So basically the critique that I agree with you on, that I heard, that I basically thought through, was this has become the way they speak in this story or in this game has become the Killmonger haircut, because this was being put together in 2022 when the MCU was at the height of its powers, right? And how do they talk? They talk with quips, and they talk very modern 2024 parlance, very new school talk, even if they're in like crazy settings in space and all of this, they're still speaking with this kind of modern, almost Twitter-esque kind of vocabulary,
Yes, like
and you feel some of that here.
Is ending, and we're making quips about things. Like it does. Like
you feel some of that in this. Which
again,
look, I don't say it as a critique. I see what you see. I just think it's a modern way of delivering certain things, and I see why it could be grating towards some people. I do see that.
Doesn't take away from the product itself as a game, right? I love it as a game. I think I think the 84, 85 score that it has is well deserved, and this is the game of all the other ones that I mentioned that I will play, right? But
these are just some small critiques that you have that kind of raised an eyebrow.
I'm just saying, as a fantasy story, this is what I'm talking about. This is completely divorced from whether I'm saying you should or shouldn't play the game, or whether I like or dislike the game. I'm saying in a fantasy setting, this doesn't really work. And even playing the other Dragon Age games, this tone is not really there. They're clearly going for I don't want to say Guardians of the Galaxy, but MCU. I think John Wolf in the chat says it best. The dialogue, the setting, the tone. It is really like, we want to do this for today's audience. And that's fine. It's just that when I look at fantasy, right, there's certain fantasy that resonates with people, right? You look at the Lord of the Rings movies, you look at Game of Thrones, and then you look at things like the Ashara Chronicles on MTV. And you say, yes, this is, or you look at I would even argue this is a similar complaint that I had with the Warcraft adaptation, right? It just didn't feel like an authentic.
Did you like the Dungeons and Dragons movie, by the way? Because that also did that.
This, exactly what you said right there. The best way to describe this, and I really enjoyed the Dungeons and Dragons movie, but they were doing this same thing where it was, we're using American accents, we're making,
you're taking 2024 people in the way they talk and you're putting them in that fantasy setting. Right.
So what that makes it feel like it's an isekai, than more so an isekai anime than like a proper authentic fantasy tale.
And the Ashara Chronicles, by the way, great show. Like totally underrated. That show should have lasted much longer. Cool show.
And again, can I spoil something about that show, or we can't talk about that?
Chat. I mean, you can spoil it. It's been so many years, right? It's been so many years. So yeah, go ahead and spoil the ending, because I know where you're going.
So again, that show,
spoilers for the Ishikara Chronicles.
That show had a similar thing where I'm like, these people have American accents. They're a little bit too clean. It's not working for me. You took the cast of the OC and threw them in a fantasy setting, and I'm sorry, it doesn't work. But then you realize that show actually takes place in the future.
Yeah, at some point towards the end, they show you like what was it? They're in the Golden Gate Bridge or whatever. They show you,
and you're like, that now the American accents are actually old, so it makes sense, right? And that is a way of explaining that. But unless you're telling me Dragon Age actually takes place in the future, I don't buy it. I'm sorry.
So in other words, they have to find some narrative way to make those accents make sense before you'll let it slide.
Yes, it's just, these are the things that I pay attention when I'm watching any fantasy story.
And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, remember who this is coming from. This is from an author who himself writes fantasy stories. So continue.
To varying degrees of success, but I'm just telling you.
Hey, man, very successful. What are we talking about? I will not allow that slander of the Everborn Saga. Let's go.
Just saying, with any fantasy setting, these are the things that I look at to
sure
feel authentic. And so that is my only gripe with an otherwise so far fantastic
pretty
game.
Good story. Pretty good game.
Again, as a video game, as an RPG, we'll see how RPG it gets. It does feel like it's very linear in the beginning. I hope that they open it up a little bit more, but it feels less linear than Final Fantasy 16. So it as a game, I am really enjoying it. So don't take my fantasy critiques. Like, let's just try to compartmentalize those and separate them from what I'm saying about the game itself. So you don't have to clutch pearls in defense of the game. I'm just making a comment about fantasy storytelling.
Real quick, Lucius, you're saying that the footage looks like 480p. It could, like, we have new software that we're running. We were trying to, that was a reason why I actually moved to different software, because I was trying to find a way of letting gameplay look smooth, because it looked like on our side it looks great, but then when you watch it later, it looks very choppy and crappy. If that's still happening, I appreciate the feedback. Still looking into trying to being able to show it in its full fidelity. This is actually 4K footage. I recorded it at 4K. So if it's looking a little blurry for you or whatever, I apologize. Yes, these are the things that we're still kind of going through.
Yeah, shout out Slow Mo celebrating 8 months of membership, who has always been here in the chats, contributing to this community and this show.
Absolutely.
And while all 8 of those months he has been a BioWare apologist, so I'm gonna allow his comment. He says at no point is Euro accents necessary for fantasy. I didn't say Euro accents, right? I am only saying American accents, because an American accent is very new to the world. It could come from any part of the world that has an old.
And what about ogres and dwarfs and all those magic? Those things don't matter in this world. The fact that they don't belong to any source, they can still live, and that's fine.
If it doesn't feel right, I'm sorry, I can't explain these feelings, but it don't feel right when you're doing. It's an old setting. You're using stone. You're saying
but in that old setting there were no dwarfs.
Why aren't cell phones and webcams?
Because they chose to use that. What they chose is what they chose.
Whatever. They should pull out an iPhone. Let them pull out iPhones and drive Teslas around in a fantasy setting.
That's just weird, bro. Like, I hear what you look. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I just think it's look.
Okay.
To me, you can take pieces of whatever you want and make up your own fantasy setting.
In a fantasy setting.
If you are able to create a fantasy setting where that feels authentic to that setting, I have no issue with it at all. I have no issue with it. I am not beholden to some kind of law of how a fantasy setting should be. I'm always trying to adjudicate what you are trying to deliver to me in that authentic way. If that's the way you want to represent it and it works, great. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Right? And for you, clearly the American accent didn't work. No shame on that. No issues with that. It is what it is. For me, it didn't really bother me much. I do see what you're saying though, 100%, because I've seen many an entertainment medium trying to do the same thing, putting almost I wouldn't exactly call it a fish out of water kind of situation. I'd call it more of modern day people in a historical, quote unquote, historical setting, right? Using normal today's parlance versus the old English stuff that you would expect from a setting like this. It doesn't necessarily bother me much, but if it did take you out of it, hey man, most people don't stand with me when I say Black Panther had terrible accents. That's neither here nor there. It is what it is. I feel you.
Again, Slow Mo, I could show you the hours I put into Inquisition, so you can tell me what I do and don't know about Dragon Age. That's fine. But my comment is not even about Dragon Age. And this is the thing. A lot of people are like jumping to the defense of the game itself. And this, what I'm talking about, has actually nothing to do with the game. I'm just talking about fantasy in general.
So real quick, let me put this here because Yuzu poses some interesting questions. They say, so who does RPGs better, the East or the West? I'll let you answer that one first. And shout out for the $2 super chat, by the way. Thank you. Yes.
I don't know. That's very difficult. Depends on the kind of RPG you're into, because you're not going to tell me that like the best of Square or anybody else is better than the best of, you know, Bethesda or BioWare. And it just depends on what you're into.
And then they add, but Dragon Age isn't even set on Earth, right? So does it even matter? right? In other words, the English accents and all those touch points that you're saying.
I'm saying there are certain expectations when you go into any fantasy story, and no one has been able to, as all the sidestepping we're doing from what I'm talking about.
This is not sidestepping. These are people's rationales, right?
I understand. We're doing a lot of this sidestepping instead of answering the question. Why can't someone pull out an iPhone in a fantasy setting?
Bro, anyone can pull out anything they want in a fantasy setting, provided that they have some kind of narrative or world building reason why anything exists. Right? Now, this is to your point, right? Because if they were able to from a narrative perspective provide some context to why they sound the way they do, maybe it won't bother you as much. Same answer to that question that you're describing. If they pull out a cell phone or they're driving a Tesla and they find some narrative way of threading that needle to make it make sense to you, all good, right? That's why they can or cannot pull out a cell phone.
Again,
right?
So they can pull out cell phones and they can go on Facebook and they can and they can do these other things. What the point
going all the way
everyone is sidestepping is that there's a sense of time in these things, and you can have magical, fantastical elements, but there is a sense of time when you're dealing with fantasy, right? Whether it takes place on this planet or not, whether it takes place in a civilization before ours or not, right? Again, there are certain things where you're going to say this doesn't fit in a fantasy setting.
Lucius says Facebook, no. Dragon Book, maybe. Yeah, exactly. Like, right? When Zelda, when Breath of the Wild pulled out a tablet, literally a tablet, did you feel taken out of it? Because he literally pulled out a tablet and started messing with the Sheikah Slate, called it a Sheikah Slate, but y'all saw it was a freaking tablet. Did that take you out?
Yes.
There you go. And he is nothing if not consistent. It is what it is.
Right. And again, this is not a complaint. Again, people, this is just an observation.
It's an observation. I feel you.
I made the same complaint when they did Wheel of Time. Yeah. I'm very consistent on this point. Right? You have now, if you want to do sci-fi fantasy, you can do that. Dune does it very well. Star Wars copied Dune. I bet you Slow-Mo's going to jump on that comment and say, yes, you're right, Everborn, right?
What? No way.
Sci-fi fantasy, right?
You mean?
Like fantasy, like if we're talking about medieval fantasy, which is what Dragon Age is, it is medieval fantasy. There is a sense of time and setting to it. And so you can go too far in a different direction, whether you guys want to admit it or apologize for it or not. There is certain expectations when you come.
Why is it when people have different opinions, all of a sudden we'll apologize?
Because I don't have no imagination and everybody's like pretending like what I'm saying makes no form of sense.
Yeah. So how about that, Everborn? He says, is Final Fantasy not a fantasy when nearly all of them have airships?
Final Fantasy is like, depends on which one we're talking about, because the 16 is medieval fantasy.
He continues that and says Final Fantasy 6 has guns. How dare they?
Okay, that's fine, but what kind of guns? And there's also steampunk fantasy, right?
Lucius continues with the onslaught, saying Final Fantasy apparently isn't based in a fantasy world. They're coming for you, sir. They are not allowing you to speak.
Like purposely dumbing down my argument. This is why I'm saying they're being apologists for this thing, because they don't want to acknowledge. But that's fine. You can be Defense Force all you want. I'm not coming at Dragon Age. I'm really not. I'm just saying take the time period and go with it
and stick with it. That's right.
Or it may not feel authentic, at least to me. You guys can accept anything, right?
Stand your ground, they're saying. Stand your ground. 10 toes down, Everborn. It's all good.
In Manhattan and get on a train, and that's fine for you. I have some standards when it comes to fantasy. You don't. You like Dragon Age? That's okay.
Yes. All right. So let's move on past this point of it and get to some of the dialogue choices. Because this is
the dialogue works because it's fantasy, so we can do it. So you can say non-binary.
No. I guess exactly. What do you think of that stuff?
Standards to anything.
Okay, now you're starting to sound a little emotional about it. Calm down. People are just taking you to task a little bit. Just calm down.
I'm just going by what they saying.
You calm down. So, but look at the clothes they're wearing. This is a fantasy setting. It looks like you're on Broadway. You look like you're at Vegas in some of these costume choices. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about because some of those scenes preceded the game even releasing, and I kind of felt like they were. And I say this, it sounds pejorative, but it's not meant to. They were agenda driven, right? How some of the dialogue plays out, so how the talk, the conversation about being non-binary and all of that, right? How it all plays out seemed contrived, right? Many have pointed out that it's just poor writing and all of this, right? So my question is, oh wow. And before we even get there, we got I would say 1,000 yen super chat. Thank you so much. Spoonie Love, thank you for being here. He says, you only feel that way about American accents in fantasy settings because you yourself are an American living in America. Therefore, it's not a fantasy to you, it's reality, and that I can understand. Which is a very good point, by the way, Spoonie Love. I appreciate your super chat, appreciate your support, and you make a very good point. How do people who don't live in this world, in this America that we live in, and hear all the accents we hear all the time, how do they feel about hearing this? You feel super authentic to the British accents normally because you don't live in the UK and hear that on your daily basis. You might have a different feeling of it if you did.
Yeah,
right?
I want to be. That's
an interesting point.
It's a super interesting point, and this is a question that I've always wondered, right? So I can hear a European accent, a British accent, an African accent. I can hear all of that. And if you
we can talk with the African accent if you want,
yes,
you know,
we
can do it.
Right. If you put that in a fantasy setting, it'll just work for me because fantasy it feels foreign. And I think they've highlighted on it.
So that may be your problem. Because American accents don't feel foreign to you, that's what takes you out. So it could be any other place but sounding like the people you know, and that would be authentic to you. But because it sounds like it's your backyard, now it doesn't feel authentic to you anymore.
Right. Now it feels like we're in today, and it breaks my personal immersion. And what I've always wondered, if you are a Brit, I don't know if we have any British people in the chat, when you hear
an American accent.
No. Forget about an American accent. When you hear a British accent, because again, the way Brits talk today, and there's a lot of different dialects within that. When you hear them talk in these fantasy stuff today, like that might sound modern to you, even though to me it sounds old because it's British, right? Because the way people talked in the Victorian era in Britain is probably not the way they talk today. So is there any of that?
By the way, it's funny you mentioned that. There is talk, there is some historical reference points that speak to the fact that it's actually interesting. They make it sound very highbrow how the British speak, but based on how the first Americans spoke, which is, Boston, the Boston Tea Party, that whole situation, the way Bostonites speak is actually how the people, that's more authentic to how British people spoke in that time period. It's just that has been lost to time. So they sound very proper with their accents and whatnot, but historically, they actually sounded like Bostonites. They sounded like massholes, if you will, right? It just doesn't, that's not popular knowledge. So it seems like the history is written by the victors, and the victors now make them sound very posh and all of that, and that's what you're expecting. But historically, they sounded like Bostonites because that's where they delivered that kind of accent and that kind of tonation with them to the United States when they first took over Boston and Rhode Island and all and that area. So there's that.
So can you highlight Slow-Mo's comment?
Slow-Mo Backslap says all accents are in a fictional world have nothing to do with this one. all must sound like they come from a tiny island on this planet.
No, they don't. And these are the things that I don't think that we're paying attention to. Also, TJI had a great one, but don't highlight it yet. We'll come to that in a second. Okay. What you look for in any of these settings for authenticity, right? If you tell me the different regions in the world of Dragon Age, why don't, if you're coming from a different region of the world, why don't you have an accent that is specific to that region? Right?
Mm. Hey, but so to that point, if you're having that kind of a conversation, then that also I have returned. Can y'all hear me? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, 1 2 1 2. This is a very weird situation going on. On our side of the house, it looks great. It sounds great. There's no issues of connections or anything like that, but for some reason, folks are still complaining that they cannot hear us. Lucius, if you are in the chat, oh, yep, yes, they can hear us. Can you hear Everborn Saga? Testing 1 2. Please let us know. Speak, Everborn. Yeah, they can hear Kay. Yeah, can y'all hear Everborn? No, we can't. They can't hear Everborn. So what we'll do now is, Everborn, I will remove you from the stage. You will log off your browser, log back into your browser, which is what I just did, and we'll see about getting you back. Mm-hmm. Okay, understood. Switch. And here we are. We are back on the show, but this is my show now. all by myself. Mr. Everborn Saga is not here. Let's talk about the fact that the man was absolutely ridiculous in his thoughts that because it's an American accent, it can't be authentic anymore. Come on now. Is America the world? I don't think America's the world. If you live in another country and you hear this accent, you're fine with it. There's no big deal, no problem. But for some reason, because he lives in New York City, nobody can be like, yo, what's going on? Come on, I don't know. I feel like it's a little ridiculous, but needless to say, this is how he feels, and this is what he can say about it. And there's nothing we can say about it. It's an opinion of his. I think it's a little bit unusual in his critique, but that's neither here nor there. I have been enjoying Dragon Age. I think Dragon Age is good. What I will say though, to his point, clearly it looks like they took and I see folks in the chat, Lucius, I see you, Slow-Mo, I see you. I know you guys have spent a lot of time in the Dragon Age world, and clearly it looks like they took what Dragon Age is and they modernized it a little bit, right? Some people say they dumbed it down. I wouldn't go that far, but I feel like it's almost like they took the essence of what Dragon Age is and they brought it to, they assume that the new audience will be much younger and may not have the touch points of the previous Dragon Ages. So let's modernize it for a newer audience. That's what it feels like they did for me. And I don't have a problem with it. I think it's cool. I love the art style of it. People had a problem with the way the art style looks. It looks a little overly animated, and I actually enjoy the way the animation looks. I think that Frostbite engine is hitting above its weight. It's really, really good, right? But I do understand if you are a diehard and this is your, what is it? There are 3 Dragon Ages, if I'm not mistaken. If this is your 4th entry in that franchise, and you're like, yo, they've changed it far too much to make it authentic now, I can feel you on that, right? I can understand why you may feel that way. But for me, in general, I try to adjudicate, I try to judge a piece of material based on what they're showing me, and what they're showing me I'm really enjoying, right? If you have a touch point to the past, maybe you have a more stringent critique because it kind of feels different from its past entries, right? That whole Valley Girl accent thing was not really a thing in the past versions of the Dragon Age franchise. And that's definitely a thing now, right? You can even have the Killmonger haircut as an option in the new one. So that is a very, very interesting touch point that we have found ourselves. That's absolutely true. But I do think that they are doing pretty good in this world. I have no issues with it. Oh, hold on. Am I? Oh, the sound is very good on my side still. Fantastic. Great. So we are able to get the sound back, and Mr. Everborn Saga is joining us once again. Let's see if we can hear him. Mr. Everborn Saga, good sir, please speak on it.
Can you hear me?
I can. The question is, can the audience?
Can the chat hear me?
Oh, he says only hearing music. Oh, wow. So man. I saw, right? I saw Cullen Prime, great name, by the way, saying sound, and he only hears the music. But Lucius says they can hear the sound very well on his side. So I don't know.
All right.
Yes, so they can hear him now. Excellent.
The chat can hear Everborn.
Yes, we can hear both of you. Right, yes, perfect. Fantastic. Right, now, there we go. This is a bad tool. We will not use this tool anymore. Next time we will come from a different tool. Yes,
let me throw you.
You didn't hear any of the slander, right? You didn't hear anything else.
I didn't hear any of it.
Fantastic.
I wasn't listening to it anyway. But I will throw you guys a bone, and I will take a hole in my own argument. Right?
Okay. Go ahead. Yes.
It is not necessarily the American accent, right? Because I think what was a fantasy setting that had a mostly American cast, but it just had a little bit more gravitas and it felt more authentic was God of War and God of War Ragnarok, right? And I don't know what it is, but maybe it's not so much the accent itself, but it's
more the
dialogue.
Serious tonations. It's the seriousness.
It's the tone.
Whereas God of War is no jokes.
Is what I'm taking issue
These
with.
guys are quipping and joking a bit, whereas God of War, they're serious. They're even what's his name? Thor is coming at, not Thor, but Zeus is coming at you with that New York gangster parlance. There's no jokes to be had here, right?
But the actor there was just so good that you felt what he's saying. That it could be the tone that I'm complaining about, and I'm I'm using the accent as a scapegoat. Maybe the tone is my
maybe. Yeah, maybe. No. Okay. So it is an interesting thing to think about, and I would like, as more and more folks play it, and the deeper we get into the world, I would like to revisit the conversation. I would like to revisit our thoughts on how it plays and how it looks and all of that, because I feel like it's a game that deserves a lot of attention.
Not hearing anything I'm trying to say.
Says quips are part of fantasy, though. Just say it.
So even the tone is an unreasonable critique. You can't say nothing's wrong.
Hey man, it is what it is, you know. But you are very much entitled to your opinion on it. I see what you see. It just doesn't bother me that much, right? It bothers me more that there's a Killmonger haircut than anything else.
It's not about that it bothers me. I am saying it is breaking my personal immersion.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Which, right? Hey, you have every right to say. Absolutely.
These are things that they either feel authentic to you or they don't. When I watch when I watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I feel like it feels authentic. I can't explain it. When I tell you what, when you remember in the last or second to last season of Game of Thrones, when they brought in Ed Sheeran and he sung a song there, I'm like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. I don't feel like I'm in Game of Thrones. I don't feel like I'm in Westeros anymore. Right? So there's just certain things that feel off, right? And those are things that kind of break the immersion. It's again, this is different from whether the plot is good. It's different from whether the moment to moment is good. It's just certain things that feel off to me when I'm watching these things. Even like, remember when we were watching Foundation back when we were doing On the Reel? And there was just something about that show that just didn't feel like, it didn't feel right. It had nothing to do with,
because one of the characters had a square box cut and you couldn't get over it.
I remember. I couldn't do it. I I don't know what it was, because it's nothing to do with like, oh, they have American accents. That has nothing to do with it. It was she had the kid and play, and you couldn't rock with it. I remember. So, you know, it's I like, again, these things aren't like things that you can lock down to words themselves, but something either feels right or it doesn't. And
Yuzu,
these are
super chat saying, I think it's what is being said, not tone/accent. What do you think of that? Like the actual dialogue being used is what's pulling you out of it.
That doesn't combat my original complaint about the spotlights and the bullhorn and the other things that are taken.
Hey man, maybe at the end of all this, you discover they're in the future. Who knows?
Listen, listen.
You reserve the right to be wrong.
Sure.
BT Maverick 707 with a $5 super chat. Salute to BT Maverick. Welcome, sir. It says there was a female dwarf in God of War Ragnarok with an Alabama accent. That was that's right. And took me right out of the game. Couldn't speak to that dwarf. Huh? There you go. So you're not the only one that feels that way. You're not the only one. Maybe
what I don't like. What I don't like is when people sort of hide behind the banner of it's fantasy, it's all make believe, so you can do anything, and there's nothing that could possibly throw you out of it. Right? Like nothing can allow you to suspend your disbelief, or right? So when you're telling a story, they're asking you to suspend your disbelief, but there's only so far you can go before you say, well,
okay, now I can't do it anymore. Yes.
Right. And so what I'm saying is those lines may be different, but this idea that anything goes and nothing could possibly throw you out of it, nothing could possibly get you to remember that, to no longer suspend your disbelief, that I think, I don't like that.
That's the problem you're having with it. Yeah.
TJI. The problem that I'm having with the pushback against my critique is basically saying, well, it's fantasy.
You have every right to have a critique, and everyone has every right to push back. And you
right,
don't have
and
to
I'm pushing back against the pushback. That's all I'm doing.
TJI asks the question, doesn't Black Panther feel more authentic with African accents? Why should T'Challa sound like a Texan? Actually, my problem with Black Panther is the fact that they don't sound authentic enough and that their accents have holes in them. But that's just me. But then again, the reason why that's a little different than this is Wakanda is supposed to be a grounded, actual African country. But every time anybody speaks in that world, I can hear, okay, this is Senegalese, okay, this is South African, okay, this is East African. Like none of them were straight, and some of them were just not even authentic to the voice at all. They definitely sounded like they were doing an African accent, which I could not appreciate. I do not, I am African myself, so I can hear the differences, and it drove me nuts. It's like
Wakanda is not a real place, Kay. So exactly. You got no right to complain.
Of course, that's right.
Picking. That's a you problem.
You see, I don't care if people say that to me. That is an opinion you're allowed to have. I know that I'm a minority in my thought process there. I get that, right? But I can say that about Black Panther, and also say that it elevated the subject matter beyond what any other material had done before. So I can give it the cap while also giving it the side eye because I didn't appreciate the accents. It is what it is, right? It's fine, You, Everborn Saga, have every right to feel the way you feel about it. Because again, like I said before we started this conversation, this is coming from a person who is a big fantasy a fantasy person, a person who writes fantasy novels themselves. So your level of critique and your requirements for it to reach your barometer is higher than probably a lot of people in this audience, and that's okay, right? That's okay. So I honestly think we should leave the conversation there and revisit it right when we have had more time to play. I'm about 7 hours in the game right now. I do think I'll put a lot more hours into it because it is a fun game. Even if you're not there, if you don't have a touch point of the previous Dragon Age games, I honestly do think it's a valuable game that people should play. It's fun, right? And being that some of those dialogue choices have already come out, I want to see if I also reach that level. I get there as well, and how clunky it actually is, because obviously the videos that they've shown off on Twitter and whatnot show it to be very clunky and unfortunate. We'll see if that actually is my experience with it as well. Game Tech Talk, the great Game Tech Talk with a $5 Canadian. Thank you for being here. He says, was watching up on VOD, Destiny Rising. I'm jealous. Also, sorry about the 5 CAD worth so little. Come on now. Yeah, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate the conversation. You wanted to show us support. The monetary value does not matter as much. All that matters is that you're watching and you appreciate the content. So thank you so much for being here. So okay, let us switch this thing up a little bit and let's talk about some news stories.
John Wolf says you missed Umbra's chat. Umbra had a member chat.
Oh,
I think.
Oh, my bad. I missed Mr. Infinite Umbra's chat. The problem here is that it categorizes member chats differently than super chats do, but I found it.
I just put it on.
Oh, you put it up? Oh, my bad. There you go. Thank you. Infinite Umbra, the great Infinite Umbra, celebrating 6 months of membership. Thank you, John, so much for your support. He says, what would you guys feel about doing a Dragon Age roundtable like we did for Starfield with you guys? Me, Slow-Mo, Lucius, John for the channel. Bro, that would be awesome. Awesome. Now, of course, we have to schedule this around our weakest link. So I guess my question becomes, Everborn Saga, will you finish this game in 2024?
Why I gotta be the weak link? Jesus Christ.
From a perspective of timing, you are the weakest link, sir. You're gonna be playing this in 2026, I suspect. Am I wrong?
No. I think I'm gonna finish but then you know what's gonna happen? If I'm gonna try to my best to finish it this month, because then Indiana Jones is gonna come out, and then it's gonna be a whole thing.
Stalker 2. So again, you are the weakest link, good sir.
Slow-Mo, I want to highlight this, right?
Okay, go ahead.
Because I need you to know, Slow-Mo, that I'm gonna use this against you, right? Mm-hmm. I'm highlighting this other one, acting like we can't tell the difference every fantasy story that you look at is not on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Almost every, right? That doesn't mean you get to throw out all your standards. So Slow-mo,
but who creates those standards? Who defines those standards?
Okay, wait a minute.
If it's not on Earth, then what standards are we talking about?
If we want to go down this route,
oh, here we go.
We
I'm
are
trying to move us on.
What are we allowed to critique anything that we see in anything because it's not of this world, and they're just making it all up, and nothing matters.
If it's good, it's good. Well, who cares if it's of this world or not?
All right, but I'm talking about feeling authentic. So where everything feels
authentic to what?
Everything. Again, I'm just asking if things are allowed to feel authentic or not, or is there?
But you have to define what authenticity means to you.
Is it possible to break immersion in anything? And what is your barometer for breaking immersion? And I have to ask Slow-mo this question in a not BioWare related thing because I don't think he's thinking straight.
Yeah, he's not capable of giving you a straight answer if we're talking BioWare.
So
sure.
I'll revisit this with the next movie that Slow-mo sees and he complains about. So the next time Zack Snyder has a movie, I'm gonna say it's fantasy. So Zack Snyder can just do whatever you want, and it all works.
We are going to stop slandering our chat and move on and talk about Call of Duty. And the numbers and the astronomical numbers that it has hit. We're not gonna keep moving on. We're not gonna keep down this path because I feel like this is a conversation that will continue on next week, the week after that, the week after that.
3, they could do whatever they want because it's fantasy.
Hit the like button, ladies and gentlemen. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the hunt for 3,000 viewers, 3,000 subscribers by the end of this year. Please help us get there. We appreciate it. Guess what, by the way? We're not doing it this week, but I should mention last time we were part of the coin giveaway. This time we will be, and this is not that. This is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3's coins, but we will be part of the coin giveaway for Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which I spoke with the folks in the background, spoke with Ben and Holly, and we will be part of that as well. And they have different offerings for their coins this time around. Celebrate the launch of Black Ops 6. So stay tuned to the channel. We will do a subscriber only giveaway. So there will be a time where you can have access to it. And it's not just one coin. They have multiple variants of the coin. So when it happens, you will know. We have a good amount to give away. We're talking to them in the background as well. So that might be next week, if not the week after that. But stay tuned to that. We appreciate y'all for continuing to support us. Mr. Everborn Saga, let us move on and talk about the Call of Duty numbers. I know we've all been playing it. Sir, what do you think of, and I thought this headline was particularly interesting. And it says Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is breaking records for Xbox when it needs them most. What do you think?
Need them most though?
This is the question, right? What do you think of where we are right now with Call of Duty Black Ops 6, both multiplayer and campaign? You know, it looks like it's been a super success by and large. What was the other review? The thing that I saw here, something about Call of Duty doing the biggest launch ever, setting Game Pass records. We still don't know what the Game Pass sub count is now, right? And you know, lots of stuff. Oh, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 may not have significantly cannibalized sales after all. What are your thoughts, sir?
I think rather than eating crow, the goalposts will be moved again, and you're seeing the tones in these things, but people can't deny facts, right? So we need to acknowledge where we came from on this and what the concern trolls had said before we got here, right? So what did they say? Game Pass will cannibalize sales on other platforms and they will lose money. According to Eurogamer, Sony was going to see the most black ink off of the Call of Duty release,
which is the weirdest math I'd ever heard.
The argument was that they no longer have to pay for marketing, and so Microsoft has to pay for marketing, which again, you know, Microsoft doesn't do marketing according to half of X, but sure. So that was one argument. Then the other argument was this really is make or break for Game Pass, because if it doesn't, then this was all for naught, right? And then we see, well, it led to the largest day one signups on Game Pass. And then they said, well, even if it does do stuff for Game Pass, then no one's gonna buy it on the other platforms. But it turns out sales were up 60% across Steam and PlayStation. Now, Slow Mo says is Activision marketing, Xbox marketing.
No.
They're under the gaming division at Microsoft, and we were told that because now Microsoft is on the hook for that marketing, that they were going to lose money. Take your argument up with Eurogamer, not me, Mr. Slow Mo guy.
There you go.
But anyway, so again, it did not. It raised Game Pass signups. It did not cannibalize PlayStation and Steam sales, and revenue-wise, content and services are up at Microsoft. So all across the board, we were told that this was a perilous situation. It was make or break. It was one or the other. And we saw that they were able to do both. And so now you see headlines like it did exactly what they desperately needed and things like that. And so I don't know if they desperately needed anything. Newsflash, Call of Duty comes out every year when people doubt it, and it makes a lot of money.
I mean, what I will say, and it's not a pushback, but a little bit of a context there. I will say, even though it made a lot of money the last year as well, the last version that came out, everyone agreed that version was kind of not the best offering.
Even when they put out terrible, Call of Duties, they still sell.
Sure,
remember Vanguard?
But sure, exactly. But I guess what I'm saying though is, like, in that realm where the last Call of Duty left much to be desired by even the Call of Duty loving public, many of them did not like it, right? I think the lowest score was like a 5 or something like that, right? And we already know that there tends to be talk of an Xbox tax, or if Microsoft gets involved, now the criticism becomes far more scathing and all of that. I have not seen anyone, even in the media, who is historically notorious for putting their foot down and being very harsh in their critique. I haven't seen even they stand on that square on this time around.
But I mean,
this seems to be such a good product that no one can deny its greatness.
Okay, so no, you're not wrong. I think, because I heard a lot of it, like, as soon as Xbox buys Activision, now Call of Duty gets a 50.
It's gonna get crap. That's right. Yeah.
No, but I mean, that's what they got. It got scored a 50 in the metas, and people.
Well, sure.
Like it. Still ended up being one of the number one sellers, one of the highest sellers that year.
Well, but let's take the. Okay,
let me finish this.
Go ahead.
So the people that said last year's Call of Duty got what it got because it was associated with Xbox. How did they explain this year's Call of Duty getting a what is it, 84, 85?
Yeah.
And breaking all the. So, like, I do believe that you have like Xbox tax in certain cases. But I don't know that it's productive to assign Xbox tax to everything. I also want to note that I think that the concern, not concern, I think they were fear mongering, but we'll call it concern to be generous, was that before Activision was acquired, that Microsoft was going to use it to strong arm the industry. And I think what we're seeing now is, and maybe this is just good PR on Microsoft's part, people don't really associate Activision with Microsoft, believe it or not.
No,
like they
not,
do
well,
in
not
the
yet.
headline. But like even Slow Mo just said it. Activision is marketing is not Xbox's marketing. They're very like, okay, but they're owned by the same people, right? Like Activision is under Xbox. And so you know, that was good on their part, because now people don't really feel like, oh my God, it's this weird thing. We thought that I didn't think that. People in this chat didn't think that. You know what that voice was, Slow-Mo. uh, that's gonna be my Slow-Mo impression from now on. You shouldn't have responded. Now I know it worked. So
continue.
But yes, I think that what people were complaining about in the beginning, what the fear was in the beginning, again, not by anyone here, but the fear was Microsoft was using their money as a big tech company to buy up a bunch of publishers so that they could strong arm the industry, and that would be bad for competition because consolidation is bad for competition. But I think what we are seeing is Slow-Mo is planning his retort. But I think what we are seeing is, and again, I think this is done on purpose. No one is viewing Xbox or Microsoft as strong arming competition, like in any way, right? Even the PlayStation super fans are not as afraid as they were. They were like, they said Microsoft was going to take over everything and they were going to buy up everything and they're a monopoly. And now they're like, Xbox is a joke. They can't compete with anything. And part of me has to wonder if that is not by design. We're talking about a $3 trillion company that employs a lot of people in terms of lobbyists, in terms of marketing and public perception people, public relations people, to get that thought and that talking point out of people's mind. And it almost feels like they've successfully done that, where no one views them as a threat in any regard.
Yes.
And I don't think
I think that's definitely by design.
By mistake.
Yeah, I agree. Because they need you to see them as not the snake with the claws out, but like as a docile, oh yeah, don't worry about them, they're fine. It works for them in their ultimate goals. So it seems. Yes, absolutely. I agree with you on that one. Yep.
So again,
okay.
People say I'm giving them.
Did we lose you, Everborn? Everborn Saga, are you speaking? Oh, it says people say I'm giving them too much, and then I lost you. All right, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like we're having connection issues with Mr. Everborn Saga. This is one of those connection days, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies. It looks like his connection is, as you can see in the corner here. Yep, his connection just dropped. So I think his slander has been overly slanderous this morning. So he's having connection issues. Oh, hold on. Are you back, Mr. Everborn Saga? Can you hear us? There you go. I hear you now. Go ahead, talk.
Okay. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, we lost you for a moment there.
Yeah, so people say I'm giving them credit. I'm not. I'm just saying you can't I can't deny that that was the thought, and that is not the thought now. Now, if they stumbled into this beneficial place where they get to make all the money in the world while no one thinks that they are the big evil corporation that is going to take your games away from you somehow and be deleterious to competition, that's a little convenient.
No, I don't disagree with you on that one. I feel like the next iteration of Activision games coming out will be super interesting to pay attention to, because will this be the change that Microsoft and Xbox needed, so now that people look at them a different way, or is this just an isolated incident and people go back to their same cadence when other properties by them come out? We will wait and see, because clearly they're actually building more different games in this. We're hearing that more unique new things will come out from them, and not just Call of Duty. So we'll see what they say. We'll see how this works. Shout out to all the folks that are in here still rocking with us. If you have a chance to, please hit the like button. Let us know if our audio is dying, because clearly it looks like the tools that we are using, aren't necessarily the greatest on this Saturday morning, and as such, we're kind of having some connection issues. So appreciate y'all for continuing to rock with us. Check, please. Thank you. Interesting. Check, please, thank you, with a $5 super chat. He says, Everborn's problem with DA's language, which is the Dragon Age's language, dialogue, I should say, are exactly what my issues were with God of War Ragnarok. It's just cringe and throws me off. How about that, Everborn?
And I get that. I just think that maybe like the kids were weird to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Angraboda and what's Kratos' son's name? Atreus?
Yeah, Atreus.
Boy.
Yeah.
They
Angraboda and the boy.
Right? But the other actors in there, I just thought that they were very top notch. So they worked for me, even though they were all like they were largely Americans.
Sure.
So it worked for me, but I did have the cringe moments. But again, I just chalked that up to I hate Atreus and Kratos should have killed him. But
wow, killed his son. That is Father of the Year over here. Jesus.
You
acting up, so you gotta die. Wow.
Old Kratos wouldn't have took that. Like
backhand to the eyes, okay, but killed him.
David Jaffe's Kratos wouldn't have let none of that fly. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. David Jaffe's Kratos would have asked for a paternity test. Anyway,
is even his?
No, it's not. Yes, true. Yes.
So what I'm saying is, and for all of the Jamaicans in the audience or the Caribbean people in the audience, what you're saying is the jacket doesn't fit.
Oh Lord, what are we doing right now? You got to calm down with your PG-13 stuff, bro. That's a little push.
No. I'm just saying the jacket don't fit. That if you know, you know.
Anyway, let us move on. I wanted to have a quick talk about this because we were on this show very, very poignant in our criticism of how Ubisoft was handling the whole Assassin's Creed Shadows thing. So I read this and I felt like we needed to at least address it, because they have come out during it wasn't specifically to address this, but there was a BAFTA event that Eurogamer attended, and they were able to speak with someone from Ubisoft. And this time around, they really, really spoke about the perceived issues of Assassin's Creed Shadows and having characters in it and the backlash and all of this. And I thought it was super interesting. I want more people to read this. I want people to take in what was said themselves. But I do think that possibly this should have been how they responded in the first place. And I want to get your thoughts on it, Everborn Saga. One of the choice quotes that was pulled out here was, Assassin's Creed has always been about exploring the spectrums of human history, and by that very nature, the history is diverse. Staying true to history means embracing the richness of human perspectives without compromise. For example, in Assassin's Creed Shadows, we highlight figures both non-fictional, like Naoe, a Japanese woman warrior, and historical, like Yasuke, an African-born samurai.
Oh, you said both fictional.
Yes.
You said non-fictional for Naoe. So
both non-fictional.
Like
yes.
But you said exactly. Non-fictional again. You said it again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Both fictional and non-fictional and historical figures.
That's an important distinction. It's
a very important distinction. You're right. You're very, very distinct. Yeah. She is the fictional character. He is the historical figure, right? Apologies, I misspoke. While the inclusion of a black samurai in feudal Japan has sparked questions and even controversy, Naoe, as a fictional character, also faces scrutiny for her gender, right? Honestly, I think that this would have nipped this whole situation in the bud from day one. Had they come out and spoken about it.
That quote, where did that come from? Is that like the article saying that? Is that the editorial saying that? Is that
no. This is Assassin's Creed franchise boss Mark Alex Cote.
Okay, so Okay, but the part about Nawe being a female and drawing criticism, did he actually say that, or is that just
yeah, these are all quotes from him. These are all specifically quotes from him. Yes.
Okay. Now let me ask you a question. And again, this could just be like, well, you know, you own I don't own a Toyota, but let's say you own a white Toyota, and now all of a sudden you see Toyotas everywhere, right? So I noticed a lot of the Yasuke criticism. I didn't notice a lot of the Nawe, or I might be mispronouncing her name. If I am, I apologize. But I didn't notice a lot of the criticism of her. Largely, she just wasn't spoken about, and I found it odd that we're saying we have an issue with a black samurai, but they just leave her alone, like there's not Japanese representation.
That was my main issue. That was my main issue.
But I'm saying he's saying there was criticism because of her gender. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, neither did I.
Am I wrong?
Neither did I. No, I don't think you were wrong. Actually, that was a criticism that I levied because a lot of folks were talking about, well, historical accuracy, and I was like, well, if historical accuracy is your barometer, then why is there no smoke for Nawe, who's a fictional character, and B, a female warrior, which was very rare of its time period. The actual character does not exist, right? And nobody took any issue with that because she's a Japanese woman, right? But you did take issue with the fact that a black samurai was there, which is a historical reference point, which actually is accurate, right? So and if you read further down in the line, she the franchise boss does say, even though their story is fictional, he says, while both Nawe and Yasuke's story are works of historical fiction, they reflect the collision of different worlds, cultures, and roles, and their inclusion is precisely the kind of narrative that Assassin's Creed seeks to tell, that reflects the complexity and interconnectedness of our shared history, right? They knew what they were doing when they initially put this together. They took a historical reference point, they took a fictional character, they slapped them together, and even the historical reference point was unusual because it's a black samurai, right? And the fictional character was also unusual because it's a female warrior at a time where female warriors were not only frowned upon, but were super rare. They put them both together knowing that would cause interesting conversation in this context, right?
Let me ask you
my only problem is, real quick, my only problem is when they faced that eventual scrutiny that they knew they would face, they folded like a deck of cards rather than coming out and being quote unquote full-throated in their response, which is another quote. He was full-throated in his defense. So pause on that. Go ahead. What was your question?
So do you think we would have seen the backlash that we've seen with this if there was a third character and it was a Japanese male?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So what these people are mad at, what they yearn for, is masculine Japanese energy. They want a Japanese man, is what you're saying.
Yep.
That's what they yearn for.
That's what they're yearning for. Yes, and
that's
see
what they
how
really
you're using
need.
Yearning.
They really need a strong Japanese man, or they're not going to be happy. These people.
No Diddy, ladies and gentlemen. No Diddy.
I'm
Put
just
away the baby oil, Mr. Everborn
what
Saga.
the problem is, right?
I see what you're doing, and you are doing it quite well. Yes, yeah. Yes. No Diddy, ladies and gentlemen. It is what it is. They are yearning for the strong male Japanese representation right now. But yes, okay. All I will say is, had they come out like this when all of this consternation started happening, I would have appreciated it. I don't know if it would have changed any narratives on the ground, but I appreciate what they're saying here. They're putting their weight behind it. They're telling you why they did what they did, and they're basically in the nicest way possible saying, if you don't like that, that's your problem.
You know what I appreciate that they did?
What's that?
Delayed the game out of the hellscape that is this ridiculous launch window of all these goddamn games. My God.
Thank you. While I agree with you, I kind of don't like the reasons.
I don't care why they did it. I didn't have time to play it.
I agree. I just don't like that. Oh, the mouth breathers are out. They're having a problem with a black samurai, and because of that, it's delayed. Or is seemingly the narrative. I really did not like that. They should have stood a bit more 10 toes down with that stuff. But I do agree that from ain't nobody got time for this stuff kind of perspective. Yeah, thank you for delaying it, because then it'll give me more of a chance to potentially get to it when it comes out next year. So there you go. But yes, I encourage more people to seek out this article and read it. I appreciate their defense in it this way versus what has transpired before. And of course, we know that their initial take on it is what will permeate through the history of what this game will be. And most people won't revisit this conversation with this article. But I do think they're putting their weight behind it in a more proper way in defense of this game. So, I felt the need to
highlight is Isildur's Bane comment?
Isildur's Bane, great name. And he says, I'm waiting for the Black Panther game with a Mexican playing the Panther.
So
I'll be represented. Yay.
So what the comment below that is well, has there ever been a Mexican Panther?
No, then shut up.
Well, I don't want to make fun of.
No, I just think it's slanderous, but I do hear the point that he's making. Yes,
but the first part I do agree with Black Ronin. Is there now again, you could have a white wolf in a Black Panther game, right?
There was a white wolf in the Black Panther movie. Yes, absolutely.
But a Mexican Panther doesn't really work with that lore. And again, we're talking about historical, an actual historical figure, so it works.
Yeah, we keep combining them to try and make a point, but the point is different because, as Lucius points out, Yasuke was a real person who was really there at the time he's being depicted. So all that is a completely different thing than a fictional character that they're using to frame some kind of narrative.
Right.
This is fact.
So here's the thing. We have a Black Panther and Captain America game coming out. Nobody's complaining about that. Why? Because Captain America's a real character. Not a real person, but he's a character that has canon, and so is Black Panther. So guess what? People don't complain.
So Roshan Eppinger pushing back, saying, imagine a Black Panther game and you get the White Wolf and no T'Challa.
I just watched a Black Panther movie with no T'Challa in it because they didn't want to recast. So you're going to have to try again.
No, I hear you on that. It is a very... look, I don't like the fact that there can be valid critique and people can have their opinions and all that, and it gets lumped in with the mouth breathers, right? I know that there are those among the community who actually have a genuine issue with how the whole Yasuke thing played out and blah, 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 blah. And they are not necessarily the same as the mouth breathers, right? And I call them mouth breathers, you know who I'm talking about. I just want you all who have a genuine issue with how this is depicted to frame your critique a bit better, because you're using the talking points of those mouth breathers and it kind of dumbs down the conversation.
Rodimus has an excellent comment. This is the best well actually I've heard all day.
And Rodimus says
are
Panthers
actually associated with South America. Africa would be lions if we're thinking about this.
True. That is, although there are panthers in Africa as well.
Okay.
There are definitely panthers in Africa. There are 100% panthers in Africa. So there's that. But I do love that these conversations, and let me be clear. I know people are like, oh, leave your politics out of my games and blah, 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 blah. We are adults. We are all gray beards around here. Many of us are. And believe it or not, as you grow, you learn that all the content and all the entertainment that you ingested as a child always had that political view and agendas, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but it always spoke with a message. You just were too young to kind of understand or grok the full message, and now as an adult, you can actually, really peel back the layers and have an interesting conversation about that. Sometimes great, sometimes not so great, but it's good to be able to see that and really have that conversation with the community. I just want that to be separate from the those who seek the status quo. Hey, this is not representing correctly, so all of it should go away and be status quo. I kind of feel like that becomes a poison pill in the conversation, and we can't move forward in that, right? We should be able to adjudicate what's going on and pick a poison, pick a side, like we did with Dragon Age, right? Hey, the way they're talking, or maybe it's the accents.
Dragon Age discussion about those clips that we should absolutely talk about. But I do want to highlight Roshan Eppinger's his last two comments.
Roshan, let's see. So his first of the last two says, the real point is people have wanted AC in Japan. They finally go, and there's no Japanese male samurai. The problem isn't that he's black. It's that they forego the Japanese samurai.
Nawe is not a man is the problem, which is what the next comment is.
Okay, so if they had a Japanese dude and a black dude, there would not have been complaints.
But so my question is, what is the problem with Nawe?
Yeah,
she's Japanese.
Yeah, but see, then the problem becomes, but he needs to be a man. He needs to be a man.
Well, but this is why I said we need that. not we, but some people need that strong male Japanese energy. They just need it, or it don't feel authentic. They need strong Japanese men like I need European accents in my fantasy.
Okay, we're gonna move quickly along because I think you're gonna offend a lot of people with the way you're talking right now. You need to stop that, bro.
What they say they want. That's it.
So what Black Ronin is saying, can't have black people or a woman. There you go. We're painting people in a corner that I think may be a little dangerous. So we need to move on. We need to move on. But I do think that these conversations are necessary, and we should be able to have them. And I'm hoping that this podcast and our community continues to be a safe space where those conversations can
I'm in no position to tell people what should and should not feel authentic to them, not after the rant I just went on for the first hour.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, so I want to diverge real quick and have another quick conversation, and this. I want to have this conversation because it affects the CEGers among us. It really does affect the CEGers among us, and I do think it's a useful conversation to have. Ooh, Everborn, are you still there? Can you hear us? Because I see there's a little spinny thing next to your icon. Can you hear us, by the way, sir? Uh-oh. See, once again, I think we're losing him. This is a terrible connection, man. We might have to cut the show a little shorter this week if it continues to do this, because it's unfortunate.
Okay. Oh, all right, you're back now. But you know what's crazy? You were gone for me.
Bro, the software looks great. It functions wonderfully, but the stability leaves something to be desired.
Go back to StreamYards.
Flight 116 with a final super chat. He says, every story has a message. If no message, there's no story. Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. And I feel like people are learning that as we grow and mature. We're learning that we have to grok the story. We have to understand that there will be a message, right? And the minute you expect no message in your story, then I guess what you're doing is expecting no story, which is kind of hilarious, right? So Everborn Saga, let's move on and let's talk about this real quick, because I feel like this has some ramifications for your CEG initiative that, hey, who knows, who knows? And that is
so you acknowledge CEG is a thing and it's my initiative.
No, I acknowledge that it's your thing.
Okay, all right.
I acknowledge that it's your thing. It doesn't really exist because big screen, big picture mode with controller support has been a thing for years. right? Before it was before Christopher Columbus had to show up and put his flag on the field. But that's neither here nor there.
I invented
Apex
anything.
Legends.
Keep telling that lie.
Apex Legends is the last holdout, and now they themselves are taking away support for Linux and Steam Deck because the Linux operating system does not offer a valid or accurate way of providing anti-cheat for games, multiplayer games. And of course, as soon as I say that, out of nowhere shows up Flood, the penguin of the penguin brethren among us, with a huge boo. But we all know why that is happening.
Let's start calling Flood the Colin Farrell of the chat.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like
nice
that.
Deep cut.
Yes, I like that. But the reason I bring this up is because this kind of puts a bit of a kibosh on that goal that you're looking out for, where Valve comes out with their official support for other hardware manufacturers. So now all of a sudden, hey, it can be a viable option for vendors who don't want to go the Windows route. If anti-cheat can't be established in this ecosystem, how can it ever be a real competitor to Windows? What are your thoughts?
I would just like to point out that last week when we had this discussion, I said Linux and this anti-cheat stuff don't go together, and you went to point out, no, Linux is fine with anti-cheat. It's just that the publishers don't want to support it.
Let's be clear. Can they solve this problem? 100% they can solve this problem. They would just need to work much harder to resolve this issue than they have on the Windows side, because Windows side they don't have kernel access, and obviously.
Can we at least get a baseline that Linux doesn't play nice with anti-cheat?
Well, no. Look, I never argued the point on that, and if that's what it sounded like, then I apologize. That wasn't the argument I was trying to make. I was just saying, from a technical perspective, it's not to say this is impossible, right? But it would require far more money than seemingly these anti-cheat vendors want to spend. That's what I'm saying, right? Nothing is impossible, right? It can be resolved. The problem is, specifically with an open source kernel and all that, no matter how far you go, there's always that risk that someone may be able to find some circumventing around what you're doing. And that's why it seems like none of these vendors want to, even the vendors with the deep pockets don't even want to spend the money and the effort it would take to potentially resolve this problem. Is Valve the only one who can take this up? Because if this isn't solved, they can never be a righteous competitor to Windows side by side in that way that you're looking for. What are your thoughts?
So, I mean, there's several things to it, right? Again, when we come back to this CrowdStrike thing and Microsoft approach, if we can move all anti-cheat stuff further up from the kernel, I wonder if Proton or Valve will or anyone in the Linux world will find ways of emulating whatever anti-cheat becomes as it moves further up from the kernel, right? So that's one aspect of it, which is why I'm really looking for what happens as a result of that. If Microsoft can regain control of the kernel and these anti-cheat software will have to operate outside of the kernel, perhaps then it's easier for them to be emulated. That's thing one. Thing two is just like Call of Duty multiplayer before it, and all of these other anti-cheat games, I don't play those, so I don't care personally. But but you and I both know, even though we are not in those waters, even though we don't play in those waters, in order for Valve to be a real competitor, because we all know gas games and black hole games and all that, that is what moves the gaming needle right now. And with you not having a proper anti-cheat solution for your ecosystem, won't that like move you automatically to second-class citizen forever? Unless you solve that problem? Yeah, and again, because there's several layers to this. So while this, I've never really had an issue with my Linux gaming journey from the Steam Deck to the Bazite box because I don't play those games. However, I do acknowledge that's a core component.
It's a huge issue,
right?
Yeah.
And another core component that they're gonna have to solve before this thing is ready for prime time is proper, up-to-date NVIDIA driver support. Can you get it working with an NVIDIA GPU? Yes, but will you get the latest drivers? No, right? And some things won't work. And so there's that aspect of it. And then I think this is part of the reason why we see Microsoft move at the pace that they're moving in terms of giving us the you can't see my hands, but I'm putting up the quotation fingers, the controller first experience, let's call it that, so I don't trigger you and some of the other people in the chat. Shout out to MJ, we'll just say that.
Keep it moving, Christopher, go ahead.
But it's because they know that at the end of the day, Linux is only single-digit % of where gaming takes place. And even though the Steam Deck is so popular, they're still emulating games that are designed for Windows. So their platform dominance isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So they feel like they can
rest on their laurels, basically.
So here is the question, right? This is the fundamental question in all of this. Will Linux or Valve, or by extension Linux, whatever, will they figure out the anti-cheat thing to get full compatibility with Windows games before Microsoft gets out of bed and provides a proper controller first experience on PC?
So first off, Flood wants the record to show no emulation, sir. It's not emulation, it's translation. There's a difference. True.
Who said emulation? I never said emulation.
You said emulation. I heard you.
When did I say it? When did I say it?
A few seconds ago.
In what context?
You missed.
I know. Just tell me the context in which I said it.
I heard it, and so did Flood. But that's not the point here.
I
honestly, you got to roll to the tape. I honestly think at this point, because there have been many different anti-cheat vendors in the environment that first jumped into the fray, allowed for Linux translation, and then pulled back because they couldn't secure it. Right. At this point, I honestly think Valve is probably the only one that can solve this problem if they so choose. Right. I feel like they need to invest the money and they need to invest the time to find that new beachhead where they can say, okay, our solution is the solution for our SteamOS operating system. Yes, of course, it's Linux behind the covers and all of that. But they'll need to, if they don't solve that problem and are able to put some confidence behind it, I don't think anybody else will. Because Denuvo won't spend the money necessary. Ricochet won't spend the money. None of them will spend the money necessary. Because, by the way, this Apex Legends support that was taken away, the tool they were using, the anti-cheat software they were using to continue running the game was Epic's anti-cheat software. And Epic themselves even changed their own anti-cheat software and took away Linux support before Apex did, right? So everyone has tried because they see the audience there, but for some reason, some shape or form, what's happening here is all of them are realizing that the existing solution isn't good enough because people are circumventing it, and no one's ready to spend the potential R&D dollars necessary to traverse that divide and find a proper solution. I think Valve is the only one that has a vested interest in making this go away. Am I wrong? Oh, did I lose you, Everborn Saga? Are you back to being mum's the word?
No. I was going back to play the tape because I was trying to see where I said emulation, but that's
you can watch that later, man. But yes.
So yes, Valve is the one to do it. The point is, will they solve that before Microsoft actually gets their act together on the UI?
Honestly, I feel like
happens first.
I feel like Valve has a higher higher mountain to climb in this respect than Microsoft, but that doesn't stop us from speculating that Microsoft will probably keep dragging their feet because they keep doing that in other aspects, right? So that is a very interesting question. If they were both running as fast as they could to resolve this problem, I think Valve has more of an issue here than Microsoft does.
You know what?
But we've seen them. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, this is the issue, right? We'll bring it back to like ARM versus x86, right? Where you had this massive incumbent that just had so much of the market, and then you saw like, okay, they were racing to, on the x86 side, on the Intel side, they were racing to become more efficient. And then ARM was racing to become more powerful, right? And who gets to the fulcrum point first? And now we see everything that's happening with Intel. Yes, they're still the dominant player for desktop, but now we see, wait a minute, ARM has a chance here, right? And now in 10 years, maybe 10 years is still too far out, but in some number of years, it's not entirely fantasy with Southern California accents that ARM might be the dominant, PC.
You and your SoCal accents, man. You won't let that one go.
But no. But like, you can see it, right? There is a world where ARM can kind of like win the ball game, although that's before we get to ARM and this ridiculous
and their shadiness, right?
Thing.
Yeah, man.
The architecture itself.
Risk 5 might have an opening. We shall see. Right. And if you don't know who Risk 5 is, look it up.
It's a boy band. You should listen to them on the radio. But the thing is that could we be in a situation like that where Microsoft just feels like they have all the time in the world, and then before you know it, Linux, eventually gets over that mountain that they have to climb, and now it becomes viable, right? Because I'm telling you right now, this Surface Laptop 7 that I got, this based on ARM, is viable as F. So can we get to a place like that with Linux gaming? I think it's possible.
Soil Tech is out here, and shout out to the great Soil Tech. He said, "Chicks dig my SoCal accent." There you go. What's up?
But are you an actor, and by the way, or a voice actor in a fantasy adaptation?
Well, just so you know, Soil Tech was the one who gave me access to FanFest last year, so I got to meet him, got to hang out with him in SoCal when we got to do FanFest and Microsoft and all of that. So great, brother. Appreciate you. Do not let anyone talk slander about your SoCal accent, sir.
I have no problem with the accent when it's in Southern California. Just
just not in your fantasy, not in your fantasy settings. I understand.
You can live every place else, just not in Westeros or Middle Earth.
Not in Westeros. Yes, that's right. So okay,
Slow-Mo will welcome you into the world of Dragon Age, though. He's perfectly happy with that.
Hey man, leave Slow-Mo backslap out of it. He finally got his game, and his game is running righteous, and he's proud of it. He's happy with it, and I actually am too, because it's a fun game. So
it is a great,
right? Yes. So we may want to end this show a little shorter because we're having connection issues and things like that. But before we go, I want to like do a small Sony block because there was some interesting Sony news.
I also want to talk about some of those clips that are going around with the dialogue trees, because I think
we'll end with the dialogue tree conversation because it is very, very pertinent, right? But real quick before we get there, and then we'll get out of here because I want to keep it relatively, because the connection drop issues are causing some static. First off, I wanted to point out that PlayStation boss wants the PS5 Pro to continue for a 10-year cycle.
Oh man.
Which I thought was like,
don't they know King David reads these articles? Do they want to put that out there?
Yeah. They see this. They see this as a generation on its own, right? Like they, and they say it's still in the PS5 generation. So basically, they're kind of saying that the PS5 generation is going to last 10 more years.
Okay. What they're really saying is generations are dead. There are no more generations. We have moved to min spec, as we have been saying for the last 4 years. But whatever.
Yeah. So this was an interesting thing, and it raised my eyebrow when I saw it, and I was just like, that's an interesting thing for a company that has been so gung-ho about, hey, we believe in generations. Drop your last thing. This is the new thing. It's the great thing. Now it's kind of like, well, if you got your stuff, continue to have your stuff. It's good. We like it. We're going to live it for 10 years. They're going more than Nintendo, right? Which I thought was like, that is a notable comment. We'll see how crazy, how far that works, right? Continuing down the line of Sony, there's some interesting talks. Oh, yeah.
Before you go there, I think that, like, reading there's a 10-year plan. Obviously, they're probably going to introduce, not according to King David, but they're going to introduce a PS6 before 2030. But they expect to be supporting this.
The PS5 will continue to live alongside it.
Yeah, and again, the PS4 is still coming along, right? Like Sonic Generations is coming to is a PS4 title, right?
So Nate Dogg, good name. Rest in peace to the great Nate Dogg, not you, but the other one. He says PS5 Pro, Asante's worst nightmare. Please, I need some elaboration on that one. I don't follow. Please, I want to know what you mean by my worst nightmare.
Before we get to that, this, because we are in this world of min spec. I know a lot of people are like, "Where's the Series X Pro?" But like, power crown argument.
It's called the PC.
It literally is, but. If they are releasing another box and it comes out 2026, 2027, then that'll have the Power Crown for a year or two. And then Sony will release their box, and then that'll have the Power Crown. And I think that that's just where we are. That if the platform holders are going to be on their own cycles, and they're going to jump back and forth for who has the Power Crown for a year or whatever. Year or two, and then the next one will grab it, and then the next one will go. I think that's where we're going until
so Nate
just becomes
like an iPhone model, basically.
Yeah. Well, it's trending towards they're just going to become PCs. Now, how many years that is, how many generations we take to get there, I don't know. Maybe it's a decade, but like, I'm sure we can all see this, that they're all just evolving to PCs.
So Nate has been saying that I've been downplaying the Pro for months, and I will take issue with that. I have not been downplaying the Pro. What I've been saying is the Pro is not, for the price tag, is not valuable to me, right? That's what I've been saying. I have not been advocating for you not to buy the Pro, right? Just like I don't advocate for people not to buy consoles, right? What I say is if all the frames, hold on, let me get my point out. If all the frames matter to you, right? If whenever they make one decision versus another, it bothers you, then you want to investigate PC, because that's where you have the freedom to decide for yourself. But if you are a console gamer and you enjoy your console experience, and this gives you a bit more resources than you thought you had before, and you want to buy into it, do you? I have no issues with it, right? This is not me advocating don't buy it, it's crap. I never said that. I'm just saying, for me, and I'm a technologist, I spend a lot of time both in my work life and at home, right? Messing with technology, right? So for me, on the page, what I've seen does not keep its value for me in saying that I want to upgrade my PS5 that I have in the living room to a PS5 Pro, because I feel like that difference in money that they're asking for does not hold value for me specifically. Right. So if you ask me my opinion, that is my opinion on it. But I will in no shape or form stop you from going and buying that machine. Right. If that's what you want, do you? That is your choice to make. And that's fine. I actually, if I have any kind of smoke for it, I feel like it should have been untethered from the current PS5 generation, because even if the features they add to it are very substantial and actually move the needle, they can't use it fully because then you're going to alienate your PS5 base. So they can only dip a toe into that next gen. They can't really go full force because now you have to, then you create the cyberpunk problem that I've defined before, where if you hit too much on the resources you have in the Pro, now all of a sudden the last gen will suffer for it because now you've overshadowed them and their resource usage will not be as good, right? So again, if you enjoy it, if the Pro works out for you, I think that's great. It's awesome. Go get it. It's all good. But for me, I believe that if you're at a point in your gaming career and certain decisions that are being made for you, and by for you I mean, do you decide between performance or do you decide between quality? Oh, this is stuck at 30 frames or it's stuck at 60 frames. If you want all of those things to be within your discretion, then I don't think this console is for you. That's me. Anyway, Everborn Saga. Go ahead.
I think you're doing way too much explaining. You don't like it. You don't like it. That's it.
No. Like this is where I'm coming from with that critique of mine.
If
right?
it don't impress you, it's not impressive to you. End of story.
Exactly.
You don't got to give all of the ifs.
Well, no. The reason why I feel like explaining is because people come to me and they ask for my guidance in technological purchases and all of that, and I don't want it to be like, oh, I don't like it, so you shouldn't buy it. No, that's for me, and you are a different human being. You may have a different use case.
Not to buy anything. Like people who want it are gonna buy it, and people who don't want it don't like it. But you shouldn't have to be. You shouldn't have to pretend to be even keeled about what you're impressed by and what you're not impressed by. So.
And for the record, I'm not pretending. I'm just not impressed by what the hardware I see. Right? If we see something new and it's like, oh, it's blowing your wig back, awesome. By the way, the tops count of the Pro seems to suggest that it should have substantial uplift in performance. So far, I haven't seen it. So when I see it, then we can revisit it. But yes. Moving on to this other Sony stuff, which I thought was also very interesting. And Everborn Saga, I specifically want you to read into this a bit more. Maybe you need to read the article and let me know what you think later. But it is now. You read this? Okay.
Well, you explain it to the people because they maybe didn't read it, and then I'll tell you.
Sure. So what I think is very interesting here is, and what brings this up for me, and of course this also comes in with the whole Sony closing Concord and all of this. It's like the conversations that were being used, the talking points that were the monopolistic and the monopsony talk that was being used against Microsoft during the ABK conversation seems to be slowly but surely like starting as a cloud that is moving towards Sony at this point. And the CWA, these are the workers unions, are now kind of got their eyes on Sony in their recent rounds of layoffs. They're talking to various regulatory bodies about monopolistic and monopsony behavior that Sony is engaging in. All kind of deja vu talking points we heard during the ABK trials and all of this, which I found super interesting because I do recall, Everborn Saga, we had this conversation some time ago during the ABK conversation where it was like, hey, opening this door may have a bad effect to you too, Sony. They now see what's going on. You're now like opening the curtain and showing what's going on in the background, and that's some ill things. That's some dirty work, as they say. And it may come that crap may fall on your shoes as well. And it's seeming like these are the early signs of that. What are your thoughts, Everborn?
So, I mean, the argument itself felt like it felt like a reach to me. They're saying that they didn't want to compete in the mobile space, so they let these people go so they could focus on console where they're dominant. Like, if I can call the FTC's and the CMA's argument dumb against Microsoft, I can call the CWA's argument dumb against Sony. It's a bad argument. That being said, chicken's coming home to roost.
This is my point. Yes, this is my point.
Makes me glad. Because after all of the stuff they went through for no reason, which we all know was nonsense, and we can see that now with the way that people view Microsoft vis-a-vis competition. They say there is none, right? They say Sony's, even though Xbox owns Bethesda and ABK and Starfield is still exclusive, guess what? Sony's still in the dominant position, aren't they? So all of the people that were afraid about Microsoft being a monopoly, now they're like, Microsoft can't even compete. They're a third-party publisher, which, by the way, Microsoft said during the trial, we can't compete. We need this so that we can make money. And they're like, no, we don't believe them. They're going to be a monopoly. And Sony said, no, don't believe them. They're going to be a monopoly. We can't thrive or function at all if Microsoft is to own ABK, because they're a big, bad monopoly, and they can't have any exclusives, and they can't do any of that because we would be in a terrible position. And it turns out that none of that was true, like we said, for 2 goddamn years. But we had to sit through the disingenuous arguments that we knew Sony was making. So now someone's making a disingenuous argument against them, and let it be very clear, the CWA's argument is disingenuous. However,
disingenuous, of course,
whatever
but
it takes,
the talking points being used are literally deja vu coming back to you. Right
get now. Workers better bargaining rights. I'm here for it. You use what you got to get what you want, right? So I get it, but the arguments are stupid. That being said, it tickles me that Sony, who used similar specious arguments, now specious arguments are being used for them.
They're literally using the same sentence structures and the same words and the monopoly talk and the monopsony talk all back to them.
Would you look at that?
Yeah, so, you see, when you open the curtain and a lot of disgusting conversations come out, that can also smack you in the face too if you're not careful. That's what's happening right now.
So again, I want to be very clear. CWA's argument, to my mind, makes no sense.
Not great. Yeah.
However, I find it hilarious that what went around is now potentially coming around. So have fun.
This is my point.
If the arguments don't hold weight, Sony will beat the rap, but hopefully it doesn't take them 2 years of wasted time to do so.
Now the question is, if and when this becomes a thing that gets in the hands of regulators, which highly unlikely, but let's have that thought. Yeah, highly unlikely. Let's have that thought experiment. Imagine it does get into the CMA's hands or something like that.
Wait.
Do we see flying, lying, crying Saraband?
No, we don't. But again, I think it's important to highlight union reps always use language like this,
hyperbolic language to help their cause.
How they work, because it's a battle of getting the public on your side. So you need to make the corporation seem like the biggest, baddest, most terrible thing. So them using this language and calling them a monopoly,
not surprising,
is literally a bargaining tactic, because what the unions want is for Sony to allow their workers to sign contracts with the CWA so that they can whatever. And again, it's a dirty business, right?
And by the way,
and all that stuff.
By the way, this is also kind of somewhat like, I know somewhere deep inside the trenches of Sony, they're kind of like really upset, because this is kind of the bedfellows of Microsoft allowing unions to be a bit more prevalent, right? Now, because that exists, right, they can look at Sony in the same way and go, well, what about you, right? Because one of the biggest publishers are now doing it.
We also have to take into account that the CWA used bad language against Microsoft when they did their latest round of layoffs.
True, absolutely.
They were talking like Microsoft deceived them in this, that, and the third. So again, the language itself doesn't matter. You just have to look at what the motive behind the language is. And it just seems like they want to get Sony to some sort of bargaining table so that the communication workers can have more bargaining rights. And is it a dirty business? Absolutely. Are they getting paid with union dues for doing this? Absolutely. But also, have unions been a net positive benefit on workers and having like benefits to employees? Yes. So whatever happens. I'm not. It
is what it is. Yeah.
But that does not mean I will not laugh and point out how ironic it is that this is
how ironic this whole situation is. Absolutely. And this is what brings it up. I agree that the argument is a specious argument. I agree that this is just ridiculous, but still it's interesting, right? When you're pointing your fingers There's three of them pointing back at you.
Right.
That's what's happening right now.
They do go to regulators.
So okay. I want to talk about the Dragon Age Inquisition, the Veilguard like narratives that are out there. But before I jump on there, because that'll be the closing story for today, I first off have to thank the 200 some odd folks that are still watching. Thank you all so much for being here. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Consider being a subscriber here. We're trying to hit our 3K subscriber mark, and you can help us do that.
You know what I'm not seeing? I'm not seeing the comments. Are they updating for you?
They are updating for me. Yes, they are updating for me.
Last comment I saw was from Nate Dogg.
Oh, well, yeah. For me, I'm getting updated comments. Absolutely. Again, this tool we're using may not be long for the world. We may not necessarily continue using this. It looks great, but it looks like it's having some oddities here and there. So forgive us this week. We're gonna hop along while we solve this. Next time you probably might see me using StreamYard or OBS. It is what it is. We might just go back there. But Everborn Saga, real quick before we talk about what you want to talk about before we get out of here, I do want you to double back and give me your take on this here, because you bought this and it's the first, what is it? The first earbuds that can be run on Xbox as well as, does it do Xbox and Bluetooth at the same time? I know you bought them. I want to know your take on them, because I may want to get them myself. I
have not tried that, but if it works anything like the other SteelSeries proper headphones, like I can connect the dongle to the piece. I can connect the dongle to the Xbox and then switch to Bluetooth and use that to connect to the PC. So that's a thing that's very,
because that price tag is a bit much for me, in my humble opinion, for little buds like these.
But
I'll ask you, yeah.
And I specifically got it so I didn't have to switch inputs, right? So I have a SteelSeries. I have SteelSeries headphones for the PC, like the 4090. I have another set of SteelSeries for the Bazite box. I have my old Starfield headphones. Those are connected to I use those for the Oculus now. These,
by the way, speaking of headphones, I actually got the new Xbox all black headphones. Yeah. I have to go put them through their paces. I'll do a review after. I got that and the Call of Duty wrap for the Xbox.
These are for the PC in the office, and then and now I got these for the Ally X specifically.
Okay. I need your review, sir. How you feeling about them?
What I found is that I just connected through Bluetooth, and it Bluetooth connection is really good. I don't use the dongle because I don't want to keep that plugged in.
How's the latency?
So far, it's been pretty good.
Okay.
So Bluetooth latency, I haven't seen an issue with like lip syncing or anything like that yet. But it might be that I'm going to end up switching to the dongle, and I'll just plug the dongle in whenever I want, because again, the dongle's right there in the box, so you can use it when you want. It's a weird thing. Like, I feel like plugging it into the USB-C port, I feel like I have to put a lot more pressure than I would with some other things, which is very weird. Like, it's hard to get out once you plug in the dongle into the Ally.
That's
very weird.
That is very strange.
So, and if I was going to be plugging and unplugging it, I was just like, forget it. Let me go Bluetooth. So that's one thing I'll say about it. It's weirdly it's weirdly tight when you're plugging it into the USB-C slot.
Maybe you might need some baby oil. I'm just saying.
But other than that, sound quality is actually great. I know there's capacitive stuff on the outside, but I feel like changing the volume, I'm never sure if it's actually going up or down. And there's other things that you can do that get activated by mistake, but I don't know how I'm doing it. So I should probably look at like a user manual or something. But quality wise, they are very, very good. I would say that I'm getting better sound from those than I get from the Pixel Bud Pros here. These are the
okay.
ones. So, and like comfort in ear is probably the best earbuds that I've used. Right? Just the way that they sit in your ears and the way you lock them in, they never fall out. You can forget that they're in your ears. And I would say they're more comfortable than these, right? These are the AirPod Pros or whatever, or
they've always been trash. I don't know. The AirPod Pros have always hurt my ears every time I
put them on. But this is what I'm saying. These don't hurt my ears, and I've kept them in for hours and hours. So this is
we have a bunch of headphones.
This is the headphone podcast. This is just what we're doing.
Bro, I got many of them. Many. I have more headphones than I think any. I have more headphones than controllers, and that's saying something.
Yeah, this is the thing, because I don't want to switch sources. It's just like you pick up the headphones. These are the headphones for this thing. But the point is, they're very high quality. I definitely recommend them. I use them literally
even at the price point for normals. $160. It's a bit much. What do you think? I'm asking you to take off your Everborn Frivolous Purchase Saga hat and put on the normals hat.
That I don't know that I can speak to that.
Okay.
But I think if you're in because here's the thing. Would I spend $110 on the new Xbox headset, or would I spend $160 on these? I'd say I'd go for the extra $50 and get these.
Well, for the record, I hear you. For the record, I got the Xbox headphones at a steep discount. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten them.
Steep. Well, then maybe people should wait for a discount for this. I'm just saying, at $50 more than the Xbox headsets, I would go for these. That's not like frivolous purchases.
And from a performance standpoint, you can stand by it and it's working well and you like it in a gaming context. Good. Cool.
So, but some people want over the ear. But if you're looking for earbuds, especially because for me, right, over the ear is what I wear in the house. If I'm out on the road, if I'm on a plane, if I'm going somewhere, I'm not going to wear over the ear headphones. It just feels weird.
Oh, wow. On a plane, I need over the ear because I need to cut out all the noise. But that's just me. That's weird. Yeah. Okay. So over the ear, I put these on and I put my freaking glasses on. I'm not even in a plane. I'm at a movie theater. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, I need to know what's going on around me. But my point is, for me, going outdoors and moving around, I don't want to have buds with ears. I want buds, and so to be able to have that to go with the deck or the Ally, to me, this is the right choice. And I've been looking for something like this for a while. So these delivered on they understood the assignment and it works.
Salute to you, good sir. I appreciate it. I may want to check it out. As honestly, one of these days I may have to do a headphones podcast. For those who aren't aware,
wait a talk for a second. I'm gonna go get them so I can show them on camera.
Okay. Yeah. So for those who aren't aware, I do reviews for Amazon and things. So they send me stuff. The recent headphones they sent me are these. These are the Edifiers. By the way, I stand behind the Edifier brand headphones. Really good. They actually have a gaming mode. Really cool. I've been testing them out. I have constant headphones everywhere. So I'm more of a headphone guy than I am even probably a gamer controller guy, which is odd enough. But yes, I saw those and I thought, hey, they might be worth it. I'm always looking for in-ear buds that can serve the purpose and serve the purpose well. So yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe y'all can tell me what you think about that. I might start doing reviews on headphones this on the channel as well. Yeah, go ahead.
Back, right?
Yeah.
They're very small. Qi wireless charging, so it works with
nice.
With all that.
You just put it on that. Yeah.
So here's your earbuds, very small. I'll show you.
Look clean. Yeah.
Now they're in and they're good, right? They're not intrusive and they stay there. They do not. They're in there. They're good.
And what's the battery life feel like?
I've played for multiple hours at the time. I can't tell you what the total length is. So you can see some of this here. I don't know.
Haystack Sniper, indeed, this is live. We are watching you right now as you are watching us. We are live and direct, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, but I've played for multiple hours straight,
Okay.
2-3 hour sessions.
No issues. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So again, I don't know what the whole battery life is, but I know I've played for 2 or 3 hours in one sitting, and it didn't give me any.
And it's been good. Excellent, excellent. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So
I fell asleep
once
with
again,
once, and I didn't wake up with like an earache.
A headache.
That's
Okay.
another thing.
Okay. Once again, thank you all for being here and continuing to be here. Please hit the like button if you haven't done so. If you are new here, consider hitting that subscribe button. We do this every week. We're trying to do a lot more. We're going to be doing some giveaways as we're heading towards the end of the year. We're going to be giving away some of those exclusive Call of Duty Black Ops 6 coins that are coming out soon. Maybe do some game giveaways and stuff before the end of the year as we do. We're rounding the end of season 4. So, you know, with the end of the season, we bring gifts, we bring upgrades, we bring new different things for the new year. So we would love to end this year off with a bang and have 3,000 subs. We're like 226 and 265 or something like that. We're getting close. So thank you all so much for the continued support, and consider subscribing, consider being a member. You know, we really appreciate all the support. But Mr. Everborn Saga, before we get out of here, you wanted to have a conversation about some of the narratives that were being presumably peddled, showing some of those videos from Dragon Age that came out before the game came out.
Okay,
and how that was being perceived.
I do, but I just want to say one other.
Please,
quick
go ahead.
note.
You know,
I've been very big on the mini PC front lately.
Yes.
So there are the next thing on the horizon is Strix Halo, and I saw an article, and I know Lucius is in the chat, but I saw an article that I shared with you guys saying that the Strix Halo, again, this is a mobile integrated GPU chip, and it'll be on par with a 4070. They're saying it'll have 40 CUs. Is that do I have that correct?
I would refrain from taking it to the bank, but I will say the plus side of the Strix line that they're coming out with is they are recognizing that there is a market here that has been underserved for quite some time as far as optimizations and all of that, right? So I would refrain from taking it to the bank, like specifically on the deets right now, since it's not in our hands just yet. But it does look like they're trying very hard to put their foot down in the mobile space, in the handheld space, and they could get close. Oh, I do not hear you now.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was on mute.
There you go.
Strix Halo, I'm not thinking of it as a mobile like APU, right? Like I'm thinking of it for a mini PC specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's how those chipsets, that's how those SoCs are. I almost said
no, I understand.
That's how they are usually put together.
It is going to have a larger power draw. So what comes after Strix Halo is, I think, going to be more for the mobile variant.
Yeah.
But I'm saying this to say, wouldn't that, even if it's not viable for
handhelds,
or laptops because of the power draw,
they'll be probably more viable for laptops, but not handhelds. Yeah,
sure. But my point is, think of it in a mini PC like the one we just did the Bazite build on. So, and again, when it first comes out, you're probably going to have to spend a good amount of money for it, maybe $1,000, sure. But that will come down after a few months to maybe a year, and it'll be $500 that you could effectively buy something like that for. So, just Lucius, did you see the article I sent in the?
Yeah, I read the article as well. I did read.
Am I quoting it correctly?
Yeah, you are quoting it correct. But they are saying 40 CUs. It's just I feel like they do that pretty often, where they try to they give you very lofty goals, but it's not a plan until it's in their hands, right? Because AMD has done this a time or two, where they'll tell you lofty benchmarks and statuses, and then when it gets there, there's a spark, but it's not quite ready for prime time. And I've learned that over the years. I will be excited once I see it materialize in a product, and right now it's not materialized in a product quite just yet. So while I know the Strix in general and Strix Halo will try very hard to set a new benchmark in that realm. I know that Steam Deck and other devices have made that ground quite fertile for hardware like that, and that's why AMD is striking what the balance they're trying to, and I think that's awesome. I want to wait and see what the execution looks like before I jump out the window. You know what I'm
saying? But again, just go on a journey with me for a second. Let's say you do get close to 40
CUs. Yes.
Let's say you do get 40 CUs, and let's say while it won't be viable for a handheld, but it is viable for a mini PC, that at some point, maybe 6 months to a year after launch, you could buy for around $600.
Yeah.
That world is very interesting to me, especially considering that now they're doing things like soldering the memory onto the board so you can get it faster. And I think there's a market for those kind of devices that can give you that kind of performance. And I think that at the rate AMD is progressing with these chips and how these mini PCs are coming out and how fast they're going down in price, before this generation is over, you will be able to buy mini PCs that will outperform what you get on a PS5 or an Xbox.
So to your point about outperforming the consoles, 40 CUs would put it in spitting distance of console, because what is it? As Lucius said, the Series X is 52 CUs. The PS5 is about 40 CUs, right? Like you'd be there, right? And on the topic of whether or not this is what kind of device this is engineered for a long time now, most of these SoCs were engineered for laptops and for mini PCs. But then, of course, the mobile, the vendors of handhelds find ways of integrating them in by either downclocking certain aspects of it or optimizing their cooling potential and all that, and in so doing allow it to be more available in a handheld context. The reason why all this is exciting to me particularly is that when we get closer and closer to that world, people or companies like AMD start seeing the viability of that handheld market and then start creating real variants that do perform well in a handheld context. The reason why I always took the Z1 Extreme to task, because they called it Extreme even though it wasn't, right? But the Z2 Extreme might actually be a good one, because now they see, hey, this is not just a talking point or marketing, right? The ROG and Lenovo using it actually can move the needle in this market. So maybe we might want to tailor it for the handheld purposes in a more real way than they have in the past. So while Strix specifically may not be finding itself into handhelds, the variants that they will then make available for handhelds might also be very performant for the handheld context, while still being good at power
like
draw.
The 7840 HS versus
exactly. Yes.
Now versus the 7840U, which is going to be your handheld variant. Now the thing is, and we know, and I will move this along quickly. The ultimate point that I'm getting to is, once Valve releases SteamOS
Steam Deck
officially,
SteamOS,
or manufacturers feel comfortable with just rolling a Bazite build on these things, do we get to a place where you're walking into a Best Buy, picking up a mini PC for $500-600, it's running Strix Halo, and you got a console?
So the thing with that, right? And maybe we get far more marketing in that way.
And how many years out, if you believe that is even a viable future, do you think we are?
I'm not sure it's a viable future in the way you're describing, because I feel like, and no shade on you on this, I feel like since you're discovering it, you're feeling like it's a new discovery. These handhelds, these mini PCs have been a viable option like this for a long time, but because it requires just a bit more of you, the consumer, customizing it in your own way in order for it to become useful for you. And it's not like, hey, here's a PlayStation, you put it in your TV, under your TV, you plug in your HDMI and you're off to the races. Since that's not an option, right?
But I'm saying, what if that is the option? That's really what I'm coming to. What if
you mean they start installing Bazite from jump, and then you go to Best Buy and there's a Bazite box that you can just pick up?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I feel like, so while I think that is like good,
we're converging towards that point.
While I feel that is a good viable option, I feel like, and you and I have had these conversations in different contexts before in the past, that marketing piece is very important to normals, right? Like I feel like you have to have a company putting their weight behind it, putting it everywhere. Oh, here's a new console, right? And this is what it can do to get people out their door to go investigate it. Because it's been a thing for a long time. And those of us who know that it's a thing have been using it as that for a long time. But there has not been a big, deep-pocketed company that puts it on Front Street, that makes every normal casual audience member go, hey, that's a valuable option, right? We know that the Ionia racist, I call it the Ionia racist, the Ionia Coon has been a Best Buy purchasable item for some time now. Do we still see it in moving units? No, because Ionia and the rest of them have not put that marketing behind it to go, hey, like the ROG Ally, like the Lenovo Legion Go, this is an option available to you to go buy, right?
But it's also
that marketing piece isn't there.
Price point yet.
True, no doubt. It's not just the marketing that's the Ioneo's problem. I get that, but I guess what I'm saying is, unless Valve goes, hey, this is what we're gonna do, and we're not just gonna limit it to internet circles. We're gonna put it on freaking commercials and standard fare, and everybody's gonna hear about this thing as an option available at your local store. I think we'll always continue to be where we are until Everborn Saga and P Squared Entertainment goes into P Squared Technologies and starts putting commercials out there, right? Because the normals need that, is what I'm coming to realize. And since they don't have that, and we don't have that in a real way, even when they get it to a point where it's ready for prime time, unless you market it well, it may not, catch the radar of most people.
Yeah, no, I get it. I think like anti-cheat, this would take Valve to make their own box, create a market, and then the others could jump in and
sing it from the mountaintops to the point where others hear.
What do you call it? So just like the Steam Deck made a lane for Asus to come through with the Ally, even though that's not like your grandmother doesn't know what an Ally is, the way she probably knows what a Switch is, but you know what I'm saying. It'll take someone like Valve doing the evangelical work to create the lane for the other people to do it. But I do think we can get there, and I think that chip is a piece of that puzzle. All right, sorry for the tangent, but
no worries. It's a good topic to bring up.
My ultimate point is that we are going to get to a place before the end of this generation where mini PCs are on par with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series.
And when you say generation, you mean console generation?
Console generation. The marketing term defined as a generation. So what we're talking about is before 2028 or 2030, these mini PCs will be able to be bought for sub $500. And
no, Lucius, because he keeps wanting to talk about technology.
But sorry, I'm just saying that before we get to a proverbial PlayStation 6 and whatever the next Xbox, well, maybe not the next Xbox, but you know what I'm saying. Before we get to that next generation, mini PCs will be outperforming consoles at console prices, which is $500. And this tells us he's excited about his mini PC, so he wants more people to be excited about mini PCs. If they start to ship with Steam OS, or if Microsoft gives us the OS that we need, I think that's a lane, and that is going to have an impact on the gaming industry in the console space.
So, talk to me because we got to get out of here. Talk to me about Dragon Age and the what your thoughts are of those clips that have come out.
Okay, so which clip do we want to talk about first? And I do want to preface that this is a very difficult conversation. It's not difficult. I don't have any issues discussing it, but it's a touchy subject, and it's a nuanced subject, especially when you have the grifters. By the way, if you want to see absolute cinema, watch the 15-minute clip. And you guys might not be fans, but watch the 15-minute clip of Colin Moriarty dismantling Grums. It was sex to the ears.
So this is the first and hopefully the last time that gentleman's referenced on this air, because mouth breathers.
No. But like it was absolute cinema. But you know, a lot of this started from a clip that was shared by him, which is an out of context clip from Dragon Age, where people were discussing the misgendering people and what the approach to that was. And then there's another one where someone comes out to their parents as non-binary, and this is what's sort of going around, and there's been other talk about the game. And so the conversation that I wanted to have was, should we, like, how you know, how fruitful of a conversation can we have when we're taking an out of context clip, right? And I get, watching both of those clips, you could say, there's nothing out of context about this, and that's the whole problem. It is so on the nose that it doesn't leave any room for nuance and all this stuff. And is that what the whole game is? And again, I'm very early in the game. I'm 3 to 4 hours into the game. None of that has come up yet, right?
Yeah, I'm 7.5 hours in, and also none of that have come up yet.
And so I think a different way to think about this, at least, again, we'll see if I come across that scene. But when I first saw it, I saw it and I was upset, not because of the subject matter, but because of the ham-fisted way they were delivering the subject matter, right? And again, I understand the other side of that argument, which is, no one should have to make you feel comfortable with their existence, right? And these are people that exist, and these are people who are customers of this game, and they want the game to be for everyone, and they want to be
and added to that, while you may require some nuance, right, in your content, some folks might need to be beat over the head with some of this content in order to understand what's going on.
Well, that therein lies the problem, I think. When we say some folks need to be beat over the head, who are we talking about? The people that don't like it?
I'm not even talking about the people that don't like it necessarily. I feel like some of this, and I say this, and it sounds like pejorative, but I will once again say, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be, right? The people who put this kind of content into the game are people who want to deliver a message, right? They want to deliver a story. They want to. I'm sorry.
To whom? Who do they want to deliver that?
To the masses, right? And I've read some articles where trans folks feel like this game has represented the trans experience better than many others that have come before it, right? The more articles I read on this, the more I realize that although I may feel the way you feel about the ham-fisted way or the shallow or mediocre way that some of this dialogue was delivered, right? Others are feeling completely different, that they're feeling seen, and they're feeling that this is an important subject matter to be put in such a big game, and there's a lot of accolades being thrown at this game in certain circles for how they are delivering and what they are delivering. So while I may have the same thought on it as you do, that I wish it would have had more nuance and it had a bit more clever in its delivery and what they're trying to deliver, I'm trying to recognize, and this is just me, I'm trying to recognize that maybe it's not me they're speaking to with this stuff, right? And because of that, I may not be able to connect with it as well as others seemingly are connecting with it.
So the speaking of maybe it's not you they're speaking to, when we even look at the clips, at least the first one with the push-ups, right? I don't know if we can show the clips, but maybe you can't because you.
I'm trying to look at it. I'm trying to look for it, and I kind of don't want to share it because then you need the audio to make it really, like, you know.
Okay, so yeah. So but the point is, they're grabbing these clips and they're taking them by going down optional dialogue tree.
Yes,
right.
And that's one thing that needs to be very clear.
We can't,
by and large, you have like 5 different options of where you want what you want to say, which leads you to various places, right? And what we're seeing from these clips are very specific kind of dialogue options that lead you to a place that people go, look, they're cringe. Chances are us playing that game may never get to that exact dialogue option. We may never even get down that path.
So just, if we're talking about a game that has thousands and thousands of lines of dialogues and then branching dialogue paths that you can go down, and these are optional things, you can't really get mad and say the game is throwing it in your face unless you're saying that shouldn't be in a game. And I don't agree. Right. And so, you know, the idea that this is a specific character and you chose to go down that dialogue path, then what is there is what you find. There's a lot of ham-fisted writing in large games for side characters and things like that. So I don't know. I would have to see this happen in context and see what did I have to choose to get that outcome before I just like start, you know, ripping out hair and gnashing teeth, right? Like, so to me, like the knee-jerk reaction, and that was the goal of the people who shared it, was to give you that knee-jerk reaction, but that it is in the game. But the way that it's delivered is a little bit orchestrated when I started to really sit back and think about it. And it's orchestrated in a way to make people feel uncomfortable. Now, that being said, we also need to talk about how you deliver certain things, right? And if you are if you're doing things with a message in mind, what we have to think of is, why are you doing it? Are you doing it just for those people that already agree with you? Are you doing it not to teach any lessons, but to talk to the people who actually experience this? Right? Because that's also an option. It could not be about making you as the player be okay with this group of people. It could just be this group of people are people who will consume this content, so we want to throw a nugget in for them, and that's it.
When you see black characters, by and large, is not to teach non-black people that, hey, see, black characters exist. It's sometimes to just show the many black players who will play it, hey, we see you, you exist. Here's you represented in this medium. It's speaking to me, not necessarily to non-black people, right? So that may be very much what this is about.
That was another one of my, and again, you know, you have your knee-jerk reaction when you see it, and then you think about it some more. And when I thought about it some more, I said, well, you know, if the goal is to send out a message and to teach people and be preachy, because I look at this and it feels preachy and it feels like I'm being preached to. If you're going to beat me over the head like this and I don't hear it, then you failed at your mission. But then I think, well, what if I'm not, or not me, but someone who doesn't like this? What if that's not the mission? What if there is no other mission but to talk to the people who have this lived experience? And that's it. And maybe not, because I can tell you right now, that's not what the whole game is about, right? Obviously it's there and it's in the game, so maybe this one specific part of the game is about that. Now, then we have to come to what the message in question was, which again, this is the part that didn't like sit well with me. Someone in the clip misgendered someone, and they said the best way to deal with that is, if you misgendered someone, you should do push-ups because you'll feel the pain, and then you don't want to make the person who you misgendered feel awkward. And I just don't know if that is the right way to think about these things. And that was the thing that was off-putting about the clip to me. And then there's the other one with the sit down with the family at the table, and someone comes home to tell their parents that they are very pointedly non-binary. And that felt like a very today in this world conversation in what is a fantasy setting, which a lot of people don't like expect that, and so they say that's too on the nose. And to all the people,
which if we're going to be historical with that, in that time period, chances are you would have gotten hung right away, because they
I mean, maybe there's different. It depends on what.
And by the way, when they're done having that food, the black housekeeper would come and taking the stuff away because they were slaves at that time. If you want to be accurate,
not at that time, not when we're talking about fantasy. But I get what you're saying. But my point ultimately is, if I can be upset because this feels out of place.
No.
For an American accent in a fantasy setting, or that I'm seeing like spaceships that are made out of stone in a fantasy setting, why can't someone say this conversation feels out of place for this setting? Right? I think while I don't have an issue with it being there, I think people that say that this takes me out of it, because everyone has their own reasons, I think those people should have a right to be able to say that as well. The same way, like you should be okay to say this is not for me, the same way that someone should say this is for me, right? And I think we have to allow for both sides of this spectrum, because the game is in fact for most people. That's what they're making it for. And
sure.
You know, like how do we navigate that in a way that is you know, both respectful of the people who have lived that, and respectful of the people who you know, are not entertained by that segment, the people who haven't lived that. I am not a fan of the idea of saying because you have not evolved as far as I have, that you're ultimately a bad person, right? It's so you have to have you have to have ways to bring it in to all people. And so if this stuff is for all people, then and I hate the term saying both sides, but you know, you should also have empathy for the person who is not as evolved as you are on this subject yet, because it's new for everybody.
So, okay, two things. One, and while I at the surface level agree that the way it was delivered, at least in those clips, was very shallow and very. Wait
a minute, hold on. I'm sorry.
After school special.
I'm sorry. Just one second. Right.
Okay. What's going
Lucius Augustus says non-binary as a piece of language is so specific to our world, but you don't have a problem with American accents in fantasy? Hold on a minute. You don't get to do that, sir.
We're not doing a 4-hour podcast. We're not doing it. No.
You didn't mind the spaceships and the flashlights.
Now you're being very CEG about it, very emotional about it.
But now you want to talk about it feels out of place. Sir, you're talking out both sides of your mouth. But anyway, keep going.
So look, the reason why this it didn't raise my level, although I agree that it like my initial take of it was, oh yeah, it could have been better written. It could have been the needle could have been better thread, and it just seems very after school special in its way, right? And if y'all remember, some of the graybeards in the room, y'all remember the after school specials. It felt very much that kind of energy. So I agree with you on that. But I've always been that person that is always about, like, I try to live if it's good, it's good, right? If it's good, it's good. That's it, right? You can put whatever content you want in. You can race bend. You can gender swap. You can do whatever the hell you want as an artist to try and say what you want to say, right? If you do it well and it serves the medium well and the content well, and it elevates and still delivers that great message, good for you. If it doesn't, then criticism is fair game, right? So those who have criticism for it, I believe is fair game, right? So, but the reason why it doesn't raise to the level of ire for me necessarily is that I'm able to look at, I have a very Elseworlds mentality when it comes to those things, right? If I see something that doesn't comport with my thoughts on it, I put my brain in it's an Elseworlds story mindset, and then try to approach it and look at the game or the piece of content exactly how they're trying to deliver it to see if it's good and remove the meta thoughts and the meta narratives that I'm bringing to it from it, right? In a vacuum, does this stand on its own? Is it good? Can it be lauded for what they're trying to deliver, whether or not it conforms to what what standards that I am adhering to? A la your standards, as in they get these American accents out of here or whatever, right? Like,
so one thing though, I want to back up, because again, this software that we're using, it is literally just picking and choosing which comments it wants to show.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, that sucks. I would suggest go to the YouTube and pull the actual.
I'm looking at YouTube on the phone to get the comments, so I apologize to the chat if I'm not responsive as I normally am. I literally can't see it.
We will change this for next week.
But anyway, 100%. So Slow-Mo says, how you deliver a message is more important simply than having a message exist. And to that, I would agree. But me thinking about this more, I had to think, well, what is the message being delivered? Is the message for me or you? Is the message for someone who doesn't agree? Or is the message for someone who has lived?
Or is this a message to a trans boy or girl who's playing this game and now is finally feeling seen? You know what I mean? Like this.
Maybe it is not. And again, I'm someone who said this writing is too on the nose and it doesn't feel right. But again, what the thing that I have to consider in my critique of that is, what is the message and who is the message intended for? And maybe the message is not intended for me. Now, again, if you are making something that everyone is going to see, and whatever you put there, you should
try to be a bit more.
Well, you should try to be whatever you want. I don't want to tell you how to write your story and what you're speaking to, because again, I don't know who the intended messenger was. But you also have to be available to accept the criticism and feedback of the people who it wasn't for.
Sure. Absolutely. Yes.
The thing is, what you shouldn't do is, let's say that scene is not for Everborn or Asante or Slow-Mo, or maybe it is, whatever, right? Whether it is or isn't is not the point. But let's say it's not. If one of us then says, that piece of the content that you sold me for $50, $70, that didn't resonate with me because of XYZ, it is not productive to say, well, get over it. We got your money already. You're complaining because you got some other agenda. No,
we're doing that, right? We're not doing that.
Everybody's saying that. But what I'm saying is, it should be okay for people to say, that scene didn't hit with me and I didn't like it.
Sure, absolutely. And that's why I bring on Rayshawn Eppinger's point here. Great member of our community. He says, true, it's your story. Make what you want. I can agree with that, but that means the critics aren't mouth breathers then, right? Let me be clear. When I say mouth breathers, there's and that's why I categorize, because there seems to be two sides of the house that tend to emerge here, right? There are those who are using some of these critiques as a way of enforcing status quo, right? Hey, every story should have strong heterosexual male, right? Every story should have females who look like their clothes have been painted on them rather than they're wearing. And anytime anybody does anything that's different from that status quo, see, this sucks. We should go back to the status quo. To me, those are mouth breathers, right? Those are the people who insist on making their every story heterosexual white males, because that was the height of great storytelling. I'm not saying. Hold on. Let me just make my point here. I'm not saying that people who have a genuine concern with these stories and certain aspects of it don't have the right to make those reference points. Of course you do. Like you're saying, Everborn, you definitely do. But I feel like because it's the internet, right? These stories, these guys or these different segments get conflated into the grums of the world, right? And the grums of the world I consider mouth breathers, right? I'm not saying what you're saying, Roshan, may necessarily reach to that level. What I'm saying is if you have a genuine, earnest critique of it, it is in your best interest to use language that separates you from the grums of the world, because then you get easily lumped in with the mouth breathers. Go ahead, Everborn.
So again, in the same way that we can say, we point out a lot that no one here is saying, like, I don't know that the mouth breathers are relevant when we're having a discussion about what individuals did or didn't like, because once you bring them up, whether you are attributing the mouth breathing to the person who's giving the critique or not, like intuitively they just get lumped in with that, right? So
sure, I guess the reason I brought them up in this context of this conversation is because, let's be clear, it seems that those were the narratives that brought these clips about. It wasn't an earnest critique at first. It was, oh, look at the crazy DEI-ness that's trying to be inflicted upon us. It seemed like it came out, these clips before the game came out to kind of perpetuate that narrative, which to me was disingenuous, right? There can be righteous critique in there, and I don't disagree, and by and large, I agree with your take as well. But I feel like those who brought those clips out before the game actually came out weren't being earnest in their critique.
So again, as a general rule, and Nate Dogg is 1000% correct.
I don't disagree. Yeah.
Which is usually why we don't say names. We only got that name only came up because I was recommending people watch the Colin thing. But you are correct, Nate Dogg, and we will correct that. We will not make that be a topic here, because we recognize that was the stated goal in the beginning. But that being said,
and you get the last word on this one. After this, we're done. Go ahead.
I as a general rule, just storytelling, what is more effective, what has proven more effective, what the great playwrights and novelists and screenplay writers, comic book writers, anyone will tell you this, right? Show, don't tell, right? What does that mean? Let people see something, let people come to it on their own instead of being so explicitly on there. Like, what is better, if I show you a world that has been lived in, or whether I give you an exposition dump? Anyone will tell you showing me the world, putting the characters in the world, and let the environment tell the story is more effective than an exposition dump, right? And I don't care what medium, you are in, people will tell you that, right? And so when you have a message that you want to deliver, or when you have some representation you want to deliver, or when your goal is to have people be more empathetic of others, if you just say that, if you just do something that is directly on the nose, instead of letting people see the similes and metaphors, no pun intended, that you put together in your storytelling and your narrative, like, it'll be less effective, right? So what do they say? If you want people to take something away from the work of art that you are creating, you don't put on your screen 2 + 2 = 4. You say 2 + x = 4. Now solve for x. This is not a math equation, but once they solve for x and learn what you are actually trying to say, now they're involved in your narrative and your story, and they feel a greater connection to it. right? So it is, you don't like when you are so on the nose with what you're trying to show people, that says that you don't have enough faith in them that they will take the message you are trying to give them, right? So you have to be on the nose, right? You have to be right there. You can't use innuendo, right? Because they won't get it. And so that is almost in a way, you know, what do they call that?
Insulting the public.
Bigotry of low expectations.
The soft bigotry of low expectations. Yes, absolutely.
So again, that is only though if you assume the message that is being delivered is to us.
Yes,
if the
exactly.
If the message that they are delivering is to the people who live that experience, then what I'm saying doesn't really hold a lot of water. But
and this is what I'm saying, right?
If they decided to go straight to the well.
100%, 100%. What I'm saying is, while I can agree with you in the critique, and I have a similar critique, I must also recognize that they may not be speaking to me specifically. And I before I even made my opinion on what the thoughts on all of this was, I had done some reading. I'd done some reading on I think it's Corinne Bush, who is the game director, who herself is a trans woman, right? I'd read some articles from journalists.
Hidden Rogue's cover?
Hidden Rogue. Let's see. Hidden Rogue writes, the people who complain about Veilguard aren't complaining about Metaphor because they can't read. Yeah, man, yeah.
They'd be really offended if they could read.
With the skewering real quick. Oh, bro. Now we see why he's called Hidden Rogue. He likes to keep that knife close to the chest and then... Well done, sir. Nicely done. But yes, look, I come to this, and this is why I'm able to watch bad material, right? People go, oh, that movie is terrible. And I'm like, I thought it was all right. Why? Because I come to things like this, taking myself out of it and taking the context that sometimes get built around things out of it. And in a vacuum, I want to adjudicate this content on its merits, why they made it, what they made it for, who they made it for, and just kind of think about it in that way. And by and large, maybe that affords me the ability to cut it more slack than others will. But I actually am looking forward to getting to the dialogue trees where these conversations are had, because I want to see if this is the only way forward. Is it only the ham-fisted way that has been portrayed, or are there more interesting ways of getting to that same destination? We'll wait and see, right, as I'm playing through it. But I can always take myself out of it and go, hey, maybe this wasn't meant for me. And it's because as a kid, you know, living in all the places I've lived and watching the material I've watched, a lot of that content was never meant for me. So I've come to understand that, hey man, Rambo's cool, but he's not speaking to me. He wasn't meant for me, but I can still watch it and still enjoy it, right? No, seriously.
No. Wait a minute. I push back against the idea that you have to be of a specific demographic for something to speak to you. I can watch a lot of things that I don't see myself in. Sure.
And it still speaks
resonate with me, speak to me, and teach me a lesson. And I actually think that's a little bit dangerous to say that people need that in order to be.
No. And let me be clear. I'm not saying that they need to see themselves represented in order for it to speak to them. Of course, that's not what I'm saying. I guess maybe I misspoke. What I'm saying is I've been able to find value in lots of different kind of content where not all of the aspects of that content connects with me perfectly, right? But I can see cool things, cool avenues. I can find within the content why they did what they were doing, or why they were speaking the way they were speaking.
Let me ask you a question. Did Cobra speak to you?
Cobra. The name is not resonating. Cobra. What do you mean?
Cobra. If I have my 80s facts straight. Okay. Cobra is basically
as in G.I. Joe Cobra?
No. The show Cobra with Sylvester Stallone is effectively
yeah. Yes. And yes, I did like Cobra. Right? So but I guess what I'm saying is, as you grow up, like a lot of that content, go watch it now. It speaks a little differently to you in your older brain. You know what I mean? Like I can see youngins watching that content and having a lot of critique and a lot of complaints. You know what I'm saying? Whereas when we watched it back then, we just enjoyed ourselves and thought, oh, that was really cool, right? The content must be allowed to speak for itself rather than all the meta narrative pushing it in one direction or another. You know, that's all I'm saying. But I do agree that whether you like it or you don't like it, whether you fall on one side of the house or fall on the other side of the house, there needs to be a safe space where these conversations can be had in earnest. And I'm hoping that we are providing that space, right? Just because you don't agree doesn't make you a mouth breather, right? And I think I've done enough to define the terms, what I mean when I say mouth breather, right? There are many who have poignant critiques for certain material that don't necessarily diverge into extremes one way or another. You know what I'm saying? And we must be allowed to say that. I guess all I'm saying, TLDR, Mr. Everborn, some people can look at Starfield and go, look, man, some of that looks like No Man's Sky. and you don't have to throw me under the bus when I say that. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not arguing with you, sir, on that.
So for those who don't know, that's what I said when I first saw Starfield, and they held it against me forever and a day. It's fine. But I think we should leave it there. And for those who think there's more to be said here, trust me, we will definitely be having more conversations with along these lines, both on this show and in our Discord, where you can always find us having these kind of conversations. And we have a far more hair down kind of conversation about it. Maybe some F-bombs are dropped here and there. You know what I mean? We let our hair down from time to time on that Discord. So come check us out if you have a chance to. If you are a member of our chat, you have access to the invite only, the VIP Discord right now, where we drop games and stuff like that from time to time. I've been doing that from time to time, dropping some games in there, conversing with people there. But just general, you can join our Discord and be a part of the conversation. We always appreciate that. Mr. Everborn Saga, sir, where can people find you? Where can they keep up with all your ongoings this week? Tell us about what's next for the Everborn Saga.
Okay, so there's a few things. We have a goal of doing 6 conventions next year. So in January, we will be in the Garden State Winter Comics Fest, I believe that'll be. So that's January. And then in May, we will be doing the Garden State Anime Fest, as well as the Summer Garden State Comics Fest. And we've begun discussions with Left Field Media. These are the people that put on Anime NYC. So we're trying to figure out if we can make that work. Their tables are even more expensive than Anime NYC, which is wild, but we'll see what happens.
And real quick, TSWS Gaming brings out a good point, which I will put on Front Street. You better be putting putting a budget together for June showcase, because we all in the spot. Mr. Everborn Saga, what are we doing?
See what happens. We'll see what happens.
Don't do that. Also, we'll see what happens. We going to June showcase, man. Come on.
We're going. Okay, so obviously we're going to be at NYCC next year, and we're going to try to make inroads to get to San Diego. So we got things in the works. We might be speaking at a school this month. I got to have a conversation about that after this. And everybody, right now, if you want to see in the meantime, go to everbornsaga.com, because we just redid the website and we got the fall line of clothing. And if you missed the Kickstarter, you can get Ariel's Adventure Chapter 2 right now, and it comes signed by yours truly on everbornsaga.com. So please don't forget that. Also, we are I just turned into the script for the Redlands Chapter 2, so we're in full production on that. That'll be the next thing you see out of the Everborn Saga. And then we're also working on a whole new series, The Remnant. And if I can, there's more to say, but I'll leave it there for now.
Okay. And by the way, what you're looking at right now on screen is the everbornsaga.com. Great looking website. Absolutely fantastic. What an upgrade. Real cool. Shout out to you, good sir. And while you happen to be on the net, you can also check out thegamingcircle.com, which also features all of our past episodes, including that CEG episode. You may want to catch wind on that one. That's when we created that Bazite device that he speaks so fondly about. Great episode. And you can even watch our current episode right now. It's live on thegamingcircle.com. And if you feel so inclined, hit that blog section and you will find a lot of really interesting articles written by myself and our great community members. We have a lot of contributors. The great Infinite Umbra has contributed. We have lots of really good contributors, including the most recent one, which is a final preview of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which was written by the great Boomstick XL, who had a chance to go check it out in LA. You can read his review here. You can click on the link and watch his preview video right there as well. We appreciate him for his contributions, and we appreciate y'all for checking it out. If you haven't done so already, please consider checking it out. It's a different way for us to express our gaming love, and we've been trying to grow as much as we can in that space as well. So thank you guys for checking us out. Once again, we appreciate y'all for being here. For myself, Mr. Everborn Saga, on the way out, consider hitting that like button if you haven't done so already, and consider being a subscriber, because we're trying to hit 3K subscribers before the end of the year, and you guys really help us do that. Next week there will be giveaways. I'm thinking possibly the Call of Duty coins might be apt for that. I'm going to talk to some folks in the background and see if that's something we can do for next week. But yes, come check us out. There will be Call of Duty giveaways, I suspect, and we'll do some game giveaways as well, because it's towards that season. It's November now. My birthday's next month. You might as well start doing them things. But for myself and Mr. Everborn Saga, we say thank you so much for being here. And I guess we'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Nice to be in orbit.